And we're live. Hello and welcome to episode 126 of Game Theory Gang. I'm Maddie Allen with ChrispyMan of Hexfire.io. Welcome.
Hey now.
Hit the like and subscribe button. Share this out. We're expecting Cream to join us tonight, and but no word yet if he'll be able to make it. But I saw you had a really awesome stream with Crypto 7.
I did. I was on with Crypto 7 today and the Axis Alive
Yeah.
and talking about all things macro. Just trying to divine where things are going to be headed, overall market. I'm a 4-year cycle kind of believer. Not that it has to exactly be the same, just that I think we're on that 4-year cycle. We did talk about some interesting stuff. I mean, 7 was talking about the overall macro, some of the feedback that's coming out from some bigger influencers. Axis had brought up some of the printing that's going on. I think I just saw a note that even more Tether was printed today. These are all that's a sign anyways of new liquidity getting ready to do something in the market, which if we think about rotations, right? The idea in the past maybe doesn't play out exactly like this, but in the past, Bitcoin would take the lead. You see a rotation into ETH would take the lead, rotation into altcoins, and then therefore around the same time, not only do we have a direct connection with Pulse Chain to ETH and some other tokens. I mean, frankly, we do have some Bitcoin to wrap Bitcoin out there. That you would see the prices and Pulse Chain follow, right? It's going to be quite interesting to see that, because if we start seeing billions and billions of new liquidity being created and put into crypto, it's got to go somewhere. And these folks are, okay, we'll give them some credit, right? They're somewhat more advanced at times and certainly control more dollars than maybe we do. They're just like us. They're chasing green candles, right? They're not bringing it in to lose money. That's not their plan. And they're not bringing it in to wait 12 years. That's not their plan, mostly. I mean, maybe there's some sailor stuff going on. They're bringing it in to play the cycle.
Well, I'm ready for them to pump Pulse Chain.
Well, I think we all have a hand in that by continuing our outreach and discussions with people. And we clearly still have one, good or bad, how, they say no publicity is bad publicity, right? So we certainly have one of the most vocal communities.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, well, I've never been more certain, but the price has never been so low. So we're gonna get there. Hey, look, we got Kareem here.
It's
Welcome.
the Kareem, the
Bang,
dream.
bang. What's going on, Crispy? Long time no see. Good to see
Hey,
you.
buddy. Yeah, hey
Good
man,
evening, everybody.
I'm glad to see you. I'm glad to see you in a hotel room.
Yeah,
Very good. I did
better,
watch
better
your
scenery.
yeah, I watched that stream with you and that guy Matty Allen the other day. So that was good. I mean, we all feel for you, I'm sure.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to watch it. So I felt like, I owe it to the community to explain what's going on. So, but yeah, glad to be here. Is Tobiwan going to be here today?
I don't know if he's gonna be able to make it. He's
Oh,
got some family commitments, but
no worries.
he wanted me to send you his best and say that he would be here if he could.
Thank
If we
you.
all
Much
if we all
appreciated.
say his name 3 times, he may appear. Oh wait, that's Candyman, right? So,
Nice.
or
I mean,
Beetlejuice.
I'll say Richard Hart's name 3 times
Mm.
if that's the game we're
Hey,
playing.
dude, wouldn't that be like wicked, man? To say his name 3 times and he pops up, that would be like even if it was a cameo.
Nice.
Uh,
And good evening to everybody in the chat, Hexicans. Good to see you all. Glad to see you here. So that's awesome. Bear with me. I guess I'm a little rusty. So what's the scheduled program? What do you guys want to talk about? And then, we can just key off from there and then tag along. But I'm just happy to be here, like I told Maddie and everybody last time. So yes, quick maths. Let's do some of that today. Change the mood.
Yeah,
I'm a little bit bored because I got nothing else to
hey,
do.
I can get. I know you've been out of touch a little bit, man. I'm hoping you're able to start making some Quattro Cinco steaks pretty soon.
Oh
I'm
no,
out.
absolutely. As soon as I'm able to leave the island, lol, and get back
Yeah,
to work.
I'm
So
out here. I'm out here talking about Quattro Cinco every day now. I've actually, it's not that I didn't agree with you, because I did
mhm,
agree with what you did with setting up the account. The Dream account originally. It was
mhm,
pretty prescient. Super knowledge about the future, and the understanding of the t-shirts. But as we went into the bowl, I got I kind of petered out after 21 with Quattro Cinco's. And then as 22 went along, maybe I did a little bit, but I got into 23, and I was like, even I was like almost like not like connecting and putting anything in there. And then the math started to show like, oh my God, wait a minute. I better get my Quattro Cinco's in, and I'm not even sure I'll be around in 15 years. I
mhm.
mean, you know what I'm saying? But
You'd be
I'm looking at
surprised.
I'm looking at the game. I'm not talking about dollars, guys. I mean,
Yeah,
dollars,
yeah, of
of course, I
course.
think dollars up and to the right, but the game of getting more hex. And I'm like, oh my God. You know what? And so like I've been really banging the drum recently because we're
Mhm,
just wrapping up stakes for 2039. Just wrapping up stakes for 2039.
mhm,
And there are only about 25,000 t-shirts that have been created in 2039, down quite a bit from the year before.
mhm.
And so I'm looking into that later, those later 2 or 3 years. I'm like, oh my God, people who want to increase their position and they're going to be around, they plan to be around. Not they're only, no one's telling everybody just only do Quattro Cinco's. I'm
Mhm.
just saying that if you want to play that game, you can be like, yeah, you could be like a dolphin for 3 t-shirts
Yeah.
right now.
I think it's a combination of a few different factors, which is really good. Is that obviously to each their own, but once you set up your perimeter, if everybody remember the 4 levels, like when I was explaining about how you can set up the Dream account. But once you set up, you're pretty much good because that was the reason why you were supposed to work backwards, right? Start long and then short. So once all that is done, we were seeing a lot of wave of those. The reason why naturally you will see a decrease of new is because those who are already in position are already in position. We need the new activity, the new people coming in, which is one of the downside of bear market and stuff. But once you start trending the other way, new activity, new people, new everything, those new people, they don't have their education yet. They don't have their cuatro cinco, so to speak, or their ladder, for lack of a better word, set up. And then you will see naturally those stakes start to pick up because they're gonna be like, oh, I need to set myself up like everybody else did. Because once you get into your position, the game literally, like I've always said, stay, date, and chill. Obviously everybody knows I've had a real emergency, but let's set that aside, I'm just focused on positivity today. Assuming everything is done, the job is done. I'm literally now just doing my time, waiting for my stakes, generating at a high APR, which is compounding and getting better every day as we ramp up the payout per t-shirt. So the job is done. So I think we're going to see a pickup of new entry as we also getting new participants coming in who haven't had their stuff set up, because that's the reason why we know we stay there and chill. And this is something that I was already witnessing back in the day via Staker app when I was working there. And then when we do certain meetings and we have the data from internally in the system, a lot of people set up the thing, and then we don't have a lot of like transaction, like people day trading in the app, unless certain big well because they just like to trade on their phone. But most people were just setting up their stuff and then just chilling. So we don't have a lot of like volatility in terms of buy sell buy sell buy sell. It was just more like buy stake chill, buy stake chill, and then as we ramp up the number of people, and you'll see once we go full bull on mode and all this other stuff, I think that data is going to naturally start picking up even a little bit faster because the new people are going to look like, oh wow, it's like you said, price is a little cheaper. I can get a lot of a T share for cheap to compensate for the fact that share rate went up. So I can go heavy to compensate for the share rate increase while benefiting from the lower prices. So I can get in a big position and start accumulating. So I think that's just a function of what the market has done. Once the market pick up the other way, those things are going to naturally pick up because new players will be able to set their state. And even me, to some degree now, I'm looking at it like a little bit like a new player in the sense where I'm definitely going to work my way up to get back the t-shirt that I've lost. You know, it might take a little bit of time, but why not better than now? Again, using my own advice, once I get in a better situation, of course, lower price. If I want to get my t-shirts back, now is the time because I can do it for fairly cheap. So I can recreate that steak and park it where it was.
Yeah, 100%.
Well,
I
the
mean,
the Desi discount is shocking right now. So, you know, talking about a 10-year
That's my point.
stake, it's
Yeah.
like, you know, why don't you want to take the the massive discount that exists?
That's a good
It,
point. I'm glad you mentioned that too. I think my only reason back then, if everybody remember it, was just more like, smart contract risk. In
yeah,
terms of like, I want to get my own because if anything, it's just me. But Maddie has a great point. If you're okay with the smart contract risk, then yeah, get the discount.
it's yeah, the 1-year version of the perpetual contract has already renewed itself successfully. So, yeah, I mean, like, if you're in the game for 10 years, another 8 from now, Desi is like a no-brainer.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean that you're going to get a better deal than if you stake for 15 years natively. And
Yeah.
that's because the majority of the compound interest happens at the end of the time period.
it does.
So
Right.
8 years from now, the T-share rate's going to be so much higher that when you renew, you're not going to. It's. I mean, it's really going to prove this whole exponential compound interest thing. Um,
Yeah.
to compare those two things between Desi at a discount today and just staking Hex
Yeah.
natively for 15 years.
Yeah, and if I were to share, like personally, since talk about one of my favorite topic is my game plan is just as simple as I'm gonna do the rough estimates and the calculation. I already started, but more when I get back. Where all right, cool, that was my first, because I was the one with the highest completion because the penalty would be the less, and that was the 10-year stake. Because if everybody remember Dream Account, it goes 10 years, then 10 and a half, then 11, then 11 and a half, all the way to 15, and then Cuatro Cinco from there. So because I've had that, hey, we're gonna hit 2030, 2031, whatever, and then every 6 months I have something coming up. That was my goal, right? As I retire, so to speak. So it's more in the optimization of creating that schedule to start having some distribution 2030 and up. But now, obviously, I lost big payday. Sucks. I lost, penalty, interest, all the other stuff, whatever, whatever. And more importantly, the t-shirt itself. But it's not all doom and gloom, right? Think positive. What can you do is what price is much lower. So if I can hustle in the real world, generate money, obviously what I'm going to have to do is put more than the original principal. Let's say I bought 2 million hex back in the day and he generated somewhere around 8 million hex. Then I need to get to a situation where, let's say hypothetically, just off my head, quick math, I need to buy at least 4 or 5 million to compensate for the 8 million and then accelerate to generate the similar yield by 2030 that the original one would have had, assuming big payday and a higher yield, because that was a share rate from before big payday. I mean, we're talking about what, 11,000 hex per T share, something like that, and change, almost like, yeah, 11.5. So,
Yeah, it was cheap.
I mean, it was a 4.5, almost 5 year stake. So, time flies, guys. We've been here almost five
I
years.
know, man.
That's crazy, and I wasn't even day one. I'm just so proud about me. So it's like I'm at the point where like delayed gratification is my thing. So like once you've done 5 years, it's like what's another five? You know what I mean? Versus if I was worried about like every 6 months, oh man, it's only been 6 months and this and that, and this is where I'm like, all right, cool. Now obviously part of me wants like, hey, bull market comes tomorrow and blah blah blah, but we don't want to set false expectation and stuff like that. It's definitely, like I said the other day, we're closer to the bull than ending the bears, and then so now it's just a matter of how fast can I get back on, scoop on the low, accumulate, then create the massive stake, park it, boom. But first step is get the situation done, get out of the island, pay the people back, then accumulate when I can.
Yeah, of
So
course.
that's
Yeah.
that's that's kind of how the game plan goes.
To bring the specific number into play, the Desi, the amount of hex that's been accrued under a Desi share is 56%. and
Nice.
it's been trading at a discount to Hex. So if it's 20% less expensive than Hex, then that means you can take your Hex, you can turn it into Deci. Now you have 20% more, plus the
58%.
Deci is worth 56% more. So you're getting this like massive,
Actually, in a crazy way,
75% bonus.
yeah, that's basically roughly the 10-year state share rate that I was getting. I was generating about, I mean, the other ones they generate about 70% APY. So you literally be there.
Yeah.
Based on
But the APY that you get going forward, because you've already benefited from this huge discount that happened, like moving forward, you're only getting 33.2% APY.
Oh, gotcha.
Because there's no big payday and there's
58 was a cumulative. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so far that's been accumulated since since it started November 10th, 2022.
Which makes sense, because the older you go back, the more. I mean, I've heard people have some crazier APY, but it's just how soon did you start it compounding, basically.
Yeah.
So my biggest potential advantage will be trying to quickly take advantage of the dip and buy, so I can compensate for the lower yield. Because if I can get 33% of, let's say, a 5 million hex stake instead of an original 2 million hex stake, although I don't have big payday and this and that, as I compound back, my goal is to roughly get the same amount that I would have if I hit the 10 year. Does that make sense? So let's say if by year 10, when that first stake was supposed to end, 2030, let's just say, assuming everything goes well, blah, 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 and then assuming no crazy hack, nobody in the community lose their money, all that stuff, because that's very sad. And I was supposed to get 15 million hex on that one stake, because I'm just going based on the math, almost 5 years went in, and 2 million turned into roughly 8 million. So it's not going to be linear, obviously, it's going to be exponential. But I'm just saying, if he goes another 5 years and then do about 15, 20 million per stake, if I can get there, starting close to now, let's say by the end of the year, assuming that I can scoop a bunch of hex, then park that thing back, that would be great, because the calculator will help me project that. So off head, I think I'm going to have at least, because it was a 2 million hex stake, I need at least double or triple the amount. So you have to be somewhere around 5-6 million hex, because again, I got to compensate for big payday, because I had a full big payday, I had a full 100% bonus, and I have to compensate for the yield loss, which was about 4 million hex over 4 years.
Are you thinking you're going to replace that rung so that it ends or matures on the
same time? That's my goal, so I get on schedule.
Yeah. And then, in that case, I would recommend you at least consider a little bit maybe of the Deci, but yeah, gotcha. The downside to that is, of course, if somebody comes in and pushes that substantially, it's going to go up, and perhaps that discount evaporates. But
I look at it like if the price starts to pump very, very fast, then this is a no-brainer, because at least the discount will still be there helping. But if we just keep going, again, because we don't want to be careful not giving too much opium, but let's say if we keep going sideways for a while I'm getting back on my feet and all this other stuff, then it just makes sense to just scoop, and then boom. Because again, it's the dream account. It was never supposed to be touched. I mean, literally, so it's like it just go in and it just get parked, and then that's that. And also
the other thing about Deci is that you might, depending on how much you buy, you might not suffer as much of a penalty if you run into another emergency. And it definitely depends on what size position you have. But I mean, somebody can sell maybe $5,000 worth of Deci without eating so much slippage that it would be worse than
Because my silver lining is, if people remember, and I'm so glad I'm here to refresh everybody, the reason why I also love the native and everything like that is also because if everything goes well and price goes where it needs to go back to where it was, forget even about new all-time high. I've had, that was the thing that also pisses me up. I had 10x bonus on my Hedron too. That's another thing. So if price goes back to where it is, like I've been telling everybody, because the hater don't want to believe it, but that's just the truth. The Hedron was taking care of all my bills, because the hex price was so high, and I love hex, everybody knows. It's just a principle of if you have to sell or take profit, you sell the coin that, not that you like the least, because I'm not going to say I don't like Hedron. It's just more like, you have gold, silver, bronze, right? And then cash, you get rid of the cash, and if you know what, then you keep the premium asset because thanks to the stake, native especially, you print the other one for free. Does that make sense? So that's why it's like I'm looking at it like getting back to the position that I was before on that particular stake. And also, as Maddie pointed it out about emergency stuff to some degree, the completion on that stake will start grinding faster every day because it still ends on that same date. So let's say I start this 3 6 months from now, whatever, because I don't know the time. I mean, like I said, all this thing needs to be in order. I need to pay people back, all this other stuff. But let's just say 2025, I'm able to do it then, whatever. Even though it's 2025 and it's a new stake compared to something that the other ones are already running 5 years, that stake, if I put it at the same time, will still end first. Does that make sense? So if Maddie will say 3 years from now, an emergency happen again, that new state will still have a higher completion than the other 15 years. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
Because he will have about roughly 6 year-ish to run to get that date versus the other one will still have like 8.5. No, what am I saying? 10 years, 10, 11 year plus. So 3 years from now, they will have 8 years to run still. And this one would only have 3 years to run. So technically, I would have been close to 50% completion. So if emergency would happen, at least I don't get burned as much. So that was also part of my thought process in terms of getting back what I need and what I want, but not just being too greedy in a sense where, well, you got to account for if another emergency happened and then you press the button again, then you're back to square one because you will be losing up. So I need to watch out for that too.
Well, along with your Hedron, you also have the option, of course, after you do your own research on it, you have the option of going and getting Communis potentially.
Oh, I have that. No, I have that. That thing was legit. I minted it.
Yeah. And so
back in the day.
And that continues. Yeah. And then there's what maybe you know about Liquid Hex from Ben Sierra?
Briefly, that was the time when I heard about it when I was building the house with John. He mentioned it to me, and then I did a little bit of research. I just know that he's the firewell because when we put our stuff on the Hex Scout, I know there was 3 wallets. That's how I knew who he was. Because I know there's Hex Scout there's Godwell there, there's my wallet, Dream Account, and then there was a third guy, Firewell, which I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. He loves Hex too. And I find out, correct me if I'm wrong, that the guy that created Liquid Hex, he's the same guy
separate guys, I think.
Oh, separate guy. Oh, my apologies. Yeah. I'm glad you called him.
Ben's really good with a ton of different things, data wise and whatnot. He had Hex Space.
So just to be clear, that guy is not the Firewell.
No.
Okay. So whoever told me that, they need to check the info. Thank you. I'm glad I asked first.
Ben Sierra Pro is the creator of Liquid Hex and the person who does this special type of analytics.
I see. I heard that, and I heard that he's a big sacrificer in the pulse sex. Is that true? At least, or that is also not true?
Firewell.
Yes, Firewell is okay. So all of that Firewell big sacrifice has nothing to do with the Liquid Hex guy.
No.
Okay. All right. Well,
so Crispy, you were explaining something about what Ben.
Oh, I was just saying that there are some other derivatives that maybe we won't get into here, but there's some others that have been released as well. So there's other opportunities to turn those into Hex. They're all related to providing the incentive to stake long. Of course, the Liquid Hex is rewarding people who have done that on eHex in the past. But the other ones are more forward-thinking or forward-looking in that they're rewarding people. And, I know we joke around about it, and I know we took a lot of heat that, like, people who want to hate are like, you guys are just telling people to Quattro Cinco. I don't think at least I never heard the message from people that only do Quattro Cinco.
It's a clickbait. Don't fall for it.
But in the game of Hex,
10 seconds, and then they think they know everything about what we say.
Yeah, but what's funny is now I'm like, I don't want to stake anything other than Quattro Cinco, and because in the game of Hex you get the most units in the game, right? That's the only way to get the most units is to go Quattro Cinco, and then these derivatives help, right? Because like in the communist world, I don't know. The other day it was a 10% rebate. You get 10% the value back in COM the other day, and able to swap that for more Hex and lock that if I wanted to. And the only reason now Because like you talked about dream account, you start it way out in the future and you go back and you set up your
Yes.
ladder to whatever your minimum date is, and then you're going to maintain the ladder, right? Which means that
Yeah,
as
I will
time
rotate it every 6 months. For the new people who don't know, the advanced level 4, again, only do it if you know what you're doing and you really, really, really are like pushing it and have that delay gratification. So by the year 10, let's say I fix the stake, whatever, I get back to what it was. By the year 10, just like I've told you on day one, is I cash out interest that I need, because sometimes it might even be too much interest. What if the price went back up a lot and then blah blah blah, and it's more than I need? I'll just take out what I need, restake the principal, plus maybe even some of the interest, and then park it after the last dream account stake plus 6 months. So then what ends happening is now I'm having 6 months rotational stakes, but because they all went to a first crazy, for the most part, I've not lost one, but they all went, let's say, for the most part, into a crazy first 10 to 15 years, full maxed out t-shirt, bonus on the, bonus on the big payday. Now I'm doing about roughly 5-year stakes instead of doing, I'm sorry, about 5-year stakes instead of doing 15-year stakes. But now I have a rotation every 6 months, because what ended up happening is there was about 12 stakes, right? Because you have 10, 10 and a half, 11, 11 and a half, 12, 12 and a half, all the way to 15, right? It's about 12 stakes, because I didn't want to do too many stakes, because I was thinking gas fee is going to be high, all that stuff. But now when the first one hits, it gets put on the back of after the last one plus 6 months. So the span from that renewed to the next time I see that one is probably roughly about more or less 5.5 years. You guys follow? Because the first one ended on year 10, and then the last one was on Cuatro Cinco, 14.2 years, 15.2. So now it will be like 15.2 plus 6 months. Now what ended up happening is I got 6-year stakes, but they all had their big payday and yield for 10-year plus. And since I'm only taking what I need, I never take the principal. And the goal is to keep the T-share count that I had before. And now, remember, there's a bigger pay, better bonus up to, what is it? Is it 10% or is it 15? That's 10, right? The bigger pays better bonus, which at first looks like it's nothing. But if you're willing to go to 15 years, and you're having 20, 30 million hex stakes on one, that 10% start to become something useful. And you're able to conserve your T-shares to a lesser degree thanks to the big payday bonus money that you got.
Yeah.
That really helps you, although you're doing a lesser hex stakes. But now and then it becomes perpetual.
It gives you a little. It does give you a little bit of edge, yeah. But you mean you got to get up there in quantity to really take full advantage of that 10%.
So the real life 4D chess is like make it to the first 15. Once you make it to the first and you earn your stripes, or my idea is like, then it's like lifestyle. Every 6 months, something is coming out, something is being replaced, and it's just perpetual. And then slow decrease of total T-share over time, but they're becoming more valuable anyway. So it's like, it just creates scarcity at the same time. T-share being burned, but also it's harder to recreate. So you get less and more valuable.
That T-share rate's going up and to the right, and it's always going to go up and to the right as long as the contract operates. And so it's well over 35,000 now. Yep. And so I've come to the frame of mind, like, just like you're talking about with rungs, how many rungs do I really want out in 2039, right? And so I have that, right? So then the question is, well, how do I get 2024? I can't, not yet. Gotta wait a couple months. And so then it's like, well, I better have hex in, let's say 6 months from now. I better have hex in 6 months to be able to do that. But what if the price of hex is 10 times what it is today? And then I'm like, I better get the hex now. So I better figure out how I'm going to get the hex that I want to stake later. And all this is against the backdrop of like many, many, many people not maintaining their ladders.
Yes.
Like T-shares way out in the future, really low. So the competition is pretty fierce for the people that are competing.
Yes.
But it's not like it was, because like I said, we only got the 25,000, and it's such an opportunity to like scoop up so much of those rewards in the future.
Big facts. Quick shout out to the chat. Shout out to Hex Monkey, great friend of mine. Thank you so much for seeing you. Shout out to John. John is in the chat. Shout Shout out to everybody. Peep Shinobi had a great comment too when he said, thanks, Cripsy, Kareem. You can stake natively, scale with Hadron, like Ko said. That's a good point too. Like anything that, especially like Alex contracts, as he is battle tested and he did all the audits and stuff. Like he's one of everybody knows by me, especially he's one of the few. Like it's not rich of the heart coin, but it has the rich of the heart value. I like to call it like that, and I want to give him a shout out to that. Those products are good. So and then minting no problem. So that's
Well,
awesome.
Alex is working pretty hard. That's my
Yeah,
understanding, and we'll see what the next revision is. And
yeah.
I'm thinking he's probably got some surprises for us. I don't have any inside info, but I'm
hmm
waiting to see what'll happen with
Yeah, I mean,
Brisology.
if his contract works, especially the thing to
Oh no,
combine both pricing and stuff for the Hedron, like he's already done, that's huge because if that works out, and I don't see why not, then we can still entertain that dream where those rich is watching whatever, where we might get some type of bonding liquidity, EXPX. Because I mean, at this point, prices are so low, and we can get rid of, or hopefully soon get rid of the Bank X people. I don't see why not. So it's valuable, not 100%, but it's a 50% in my book percentile chance that we just get that pair back because both prices are so low in a sense where that they're very close to each other. You know what I mean? It's one thing where like, oh, you're half of one thing and then one is 5 cents and the other one is 10 cents or 10 and 20. It's another thing when you're like, okay, you're like half a penny and your one is like a third of a penny or like a second of a penny. It looks like it's half, but it's not that big of a deal to get it to pair again. And we did add in the very early days the EX, PX, liquid bonding, the community provide liquidity for that. So this is something where if the Alex contract work, I can see something like that come back. But again, no guarantee. We don't know, which is also why when I'm talking replenishing the T-shirt, I'm going to focus on the pulse chain side first. I'm going to get the PX T-shirt first. And if I get lucky and I either generate more money faster or the price is low longer, whatever, I might get the one from the EHEX side too. Because I've always loved both. Because again, the privilege we have as early people is that you don't have to pick.
well,
You
I'm
run.
I'm sure you have not had a chance to look at everything, but the spread on the
Mm,
percentages has really widened between the two. So like on
yes.
EHEX, it's average, which is just a measure of all of the open stakes and what their average
hmm
APY is like 43, 44%. There's like
Yes.
a 6% gap. It's down to 37% on the pulse chain side. Uh,
Yep. I've seen that.
I don't anticipate um, I don't anticipate Richard coming out and saying anything different than what he had said, but I didn't anticipate what he said in the first place. So who knows?
hmm
Something could happen. But with no action from Richard or from whoever controls the OA, yeah, I mean, it's just going to continue to be that there'll be fewer and fewer T shares, and
hmm
the APY rate is going to go up on Ethereum. It's really up to the community,
I was just about to say that. Yeah,
you know.
because the Richard part is not really relevant. All I was saying is that that was a fact. We did witness that pool being created of EXPX. I'm just
Mhm.
saying that there's still a possibility that one day that pool comes back because, and this is not speculation, it's fact because we've seen it. It was there. Number two, we heard many times when Richard say he doesn't want to see cheap hex on any chain. As crazy as it sounds, little side topic, but just since we're on this, it's important. I was just randomly checking, and I don't know if you guys see, but ETH W has been running. It's like $10. So
Oh,
it's
really?
like,
I haven't even
yeah,
checked yet.
yeah. I mean, low liquidity, but because ever since I heard, China rumors against a bag, boom, Justin Sun over there, really, whatever, and Tron, whatever. But because ETH W is really running China, because for them, they're trying to, again, just like the people in the United States, it's like VC, Solana, everybody's shilling the Solana talk about the ETF because they're trying to be ahead because they know Ethereum got it. It's going to pump slowly but surely. They're looking at the next thing. In the US, they're looking at, Solana's going to get the next whatever ETF. So they start ape on that and they're running that paradigm. In Asia, they're looking at it like Ethereum eventually is going to get to 4, 5, 6K, which we believe that 2025, hopefully, which then means if W will run because they're looking at it like kind of like we have a pulse chain. If eventually it becomes too expensive, this other one is a copy of blah, 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 and then runs too. So all I'm saying is, and even the hex over there, very low price, but it benefited from that price rise too. So what I'm saying is, I wouldn't be surprised if things start to run and somebody can just say fuck it, and BankX is no longer in the equation. Somebody could just run it and then push it back up. Because
Well,
I don't see
look,
it up. Yeah.
ETH Fair, which is the fourth version of Hex.
Yeah, but that one,
No, listen,
yeah.
because ETH W and ETH Fair happened at the same time. But the
Yeah, no, no, no,
miners,
no. But one got listed
hold
on
on,
it.
let me
Okay.
make my point. The
Okay.
miners disabled the Hex staking contract,
What?
okay, on ETH Fair.
Messed
And
up.
so I staked all my Hex. I
Yeah.
blew a bunch of money on there because I was wrong about it. I thought it would
Right.
catch on. And I staked it all, and now it's permalocked. You're welcome, everybody, for like the buy and burn, you know. But look, so eHex, I think the reason Richard, was negative about it is because it costs too much when gas fees are high, and like
Exactly.
the whole point of making Pulse Chain was high gas fees, and like the external threat to Hex
Mhm.
being like the at the time the miners and the Ethereum folks, they just raised the S load of function. Like they like, I've heard it argued both ways that it was like a good idea and a bad idea, but it did affect the the Hex staking parameters, and you're not being a very good EVM if you're like changing the rules all the time, right? So that kind of like screwed with Hex and created the reason for Pulse Chain. Now, I will point out that Future Us has invented a way to fix eHex, but we don't know if it's something that would be supported by the founder or by the community. And so there is a way to give everybody the same balances that they would have had, and the same OA, and that's kind of interesting that you could actually come up with there's actually a better way to code the calculation of the interest. So we'll see if we'll see if that ever pans out. But at this point, it's basically, well, if the founder isn't supportive of it, then we wouldn't pursue something like that.
Absolutely. Oh, and by the way, again, great comment from Hex Monkey here. Let me be crystal clear so that the hater don't use that. Like we're just using an analogy saying that Hex on ETH might one day potentially rise back up to the one pulse chain, because if ETH goes up, we're nowhere near saying, hey, go on ETH W, buy Hex over there. Don't do that. Don't do that. It was only a comment saying that the Chinese are running it the same way you see certain coins start to run. Usually that's a sign that, the bull market is getting ready to pop at any time. It's a good transition to also remind everybody that the BTC dominance is on a heavy rising wedge. Could be the last leg. It might pop to 60%, or it might just crack that and then off we go. Like I really, really can see, and I don't know when we're gonna start talking about chart and stuff, but I clearly can see interest rates are going down steadily. We're well below 4 now, 2-year, 10-year. The yield curve almost inverted itself. That's how crazy it is. But you cannot do that right now because that usually signal the market crash. But they're both trending down, which is good. Cost of money going down, which is also going to be good for real estate, which is why the stock market can rise. We're seeing all institutions buying ETF left and right, and more from the stock market, especially, and big banks too are starting to buy that. That's a big deal. Number 3, we have the federal Jerome Powell is going to Jackson Hole when he's going to be talking about inflation. Every time that big meeting when it happens, he usually signal, and if he signal that he's going to lower rate, at least base 25 basis point, because he doesn't want to lower it too much. If you lower too much too fast, people are going to panic. They're going to think market like dying. But he's going to lower it a little bit. And knowing him and what he has done, he's going to probably lower it slowly over time. And maybe at time he might lower it and then not lower it. If inflation don't steadily go back down, he's not going to be just hastily lowering it all the way down, because he doesn't want to lose all the hard work that he's been doing for years. So you factor all these things, plus you clearly can see short sellers in the market, that Bitcoin Ethereum is being artificially held down, because that's what stock market people do. They keep it low, they short you down to create panic, so you sell, so they buy the dip as much as possible while keeping the beach ball down, And eventually it breaks, but by that time they already loaded up the bus anyway. So they're going to act like they're losing on their short, but they're just unwinding the short after already fill up their bag on the dip. So that's a little bit more advanced, but that's what they do. They're longing and shorting at the same time. They short to push the price down while making money, by the way, when the price goes down, but they keep it artificially down while they're loading up billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, Ethereum, all that stuff. And when they're ready to let the thing go up, they'll just let the short squeeze happen, liquidate themselves, because the liquidation will create a pump while simultaneously buying the dip. So now all of a sudden, when you buy low and then the price go up 20%, 30%, your purchasing power increase, your buying power increase. Next thing you know, you have more money, because that's the trick that they use in the stock market. So we lost a little bit of decentralization. That's why I tell people you got to be careful what you wish for. You want stock market money to come and pump your bag. But when people realize that, unfortunately, nobody else is buying but the ETF people, because everybody else is in fear mode, you're literally at their whip. Because if they decide not to buy, then you're stuck. And that's why we're going sideways right now. Because we don't have any little guy or a bunch of people buying, because they either already bought or they already got liquidated. So we're just waiting for them to decide when to let it go. And that's why the Fed's meeting is going to be key, and why lowering interest rate is going to be key, because if money gets cheap again, global liquidity goes up, they're going to stop pumping stock market, which is already happening, and then they're going to allow Bitcoin and ETH to run.
Well, I heard that there's $13 billion in cash going back to FTX creditors, and I think somebody out there in this community should look into whether it's possible to send a postcard to all those people, because that seems to work.
Yes, exactly. Oh, and one more selling pressure we have had, government selling. That's important. I think the Democrats was trying to sell the Bitcoin. What a timing. That sucks. But, U.S. government selling Bitcoin does affect, because we're already dealing with the Germans. We got that done. And then we thought that was it. And then we're dealing with Mt. Gox. But Mt. Gox, I think that wasn't really a threat, because a lot of people are diehard crypto guys anyway. Yes, you're going to cash out because you hold it for so long. But a lot of them would just love to just hold the crypto and buy their favorite altcoin too, like Richard pointed out, rightfully so. So I think once we're done with the selling pressure of the U.S. government, hopefully, if they want to sell the whole thing, it is what it is, but I don't think they're going to do that. Then we can go.
Let's go.
Bang, bang. So, yeah, I was going to reading the comments here. So. Yeah, no, perfect. Let's see. You guys want to talk about charts?
Yeah, let's do it.
Can do.
Let me show something here. Ta-da. Just give me 1 second. Maddie, can you share my screen? Let me see if I can present. Boom. Share screen. Close tab. Yep, this one. Share. Let me know when you can see it.
Got it.
Okay, perfect. So like I was explaining earlier, by the way, this is the Golden Boy over here. Golds. This is funny. Gold all-time high. Now, why do I like this gold chart right here, which is funny? I want to show you guys something. It literally looks like the pattern that Bitcoin is on, but let me do it on a weekly, but more like backwards, right? I think this is where we are on Bitcoin, right? We're in that megaphone section here. We did the little low scare, got everybody liquidated, and we're somewhere here. Now, watch this, and then look at this chart right here. This is literally what I think we're on right now, in that little megaphone, right? All time we're bouncing between 786. We're whipped by 50,000, and we're back here. And literally right now we're in that indecision, because we're literally in the middle between the 786 and then the 1.0 all-time high. So equal. That's why people that trade here, oh my God, they're getting liquidated left and right. The liquidation box is literally hunting, because when you see how small this is, right, the Gaussian channel, it's just liquidation. People go long, get liquidated. People go short, get liquidated. It's just like dancing. So when you look at here over here, that kind of like megaphone that you're seeing, which is a consolidation phase, right? That you see here. And we got the big wick down, came back up. That's bullish. Recovered the vector candle. Now we here, we're outside the Gaussian channel, but we're still kind of like not out of the woods yet. But we keep making slightly, you see, that's a weekly chart, slightly higher high every time. So that's bullish, but it's tiny. Now, when you look at the gold chart, back to where I was saying, I think we're here in that zone over here, megaphone. We're here somewhere. The question is, are we going to stay here longer, or are we going to quickly, when it's green like this, the vector can, like, a lot of buying is happening from, obviously algorithm bots and also like regular people. The reason why that matters is because now we're dealing with stock market people. So stock market people is high frequency trading. So we're talking about like hundreds of thousands of microtransactions per second. A human being cannot do that. That's bots. That's when you know you got bots doing that. And then once we get out, let's say this is like the 65K, then we'll go above near all-time high, dance for a little bit, and then boom. This is where September, October, and then, president, hopefully, we get the right one, and then, off we go. So I think that's that pattern of gold and then the all-time high is basically what Bitcoin is going to be doing in the next coming months. That's what I'll show you on the weekly here. And then when you look on here, right here, also on, US 30 and S&P 500, just stock market stuff, we had the crazy little scare a couple weeks ago. You guys remember the Black Swan event? Oh my God. And then vector candle, see people going short. That's why it's red. And then boom, recovered everything, ready to make new high. That means liquidity coming in. S&P 500, they all look similar. Boom. SPX, SPY, boom. You can see ferocious buying. It looks like this up and to the right. It keeps doing that over and over and over. So stock market is doing decent. It's not in trouble. The yield constantly going down steadily. This is a big, big thing because for the first time in a long time, we went below 4%, like considerably. So you watch the trend. It's perfect. It did this already, bearish cross, boom. And that's what we want, because back in the 2021, 22, look how low the yield were back then. It was crazy. We had that crazy pump. If you guys remember, we caught it right here. We knew that was the beginning of the bull market. We caught the W pattern. And then we knew after the puking had done, the thing was rising, you knew the bear market was starting. But guess what? Now we're starting to trend down here. This over here is basically we're right here. Let's give you guys an example. If you guys remember 2019, things started to go down a little bit, but the market was doing good. And then right around here, COVID hit and then dump. So in other words, for people who are new, what that means is you want yield to trend down. Cost of money goes down. Cost of money goes down. Price market, stock market goes up because it's cheap, so they can borrow and then play leverage. But if it goes down too fast, this is signaling crazy. The economy is bad, market crash, because the Feds will never lower it all the way to zero unless there's a catastrophic event, aka Black Swan, all that stuff, COVID-19. So this you don't want. This is what you want. Slow decrease, quarter basis point at a time, slowly and steady. And we already stopped doing the all-time high. We trended down. And I know it sounds crazy, but this is a weekly chart. This is January 2019. By the time we got here, this is August 2019. By the time we got here, it's January 2020. So this whole thing here that looks small, that's a whole year. So we can literally be stock market going up for another whole year as this like puke, but slowly. So we want lower yield, but we don't want yield to lower too fast. I think it's going to go around the ultimately be on the 3 zone and then bounce somewhere around here so that it can be good. And that's the 10-year yield, which is usually the most important one, because that's how you know if we're in a, bull or bear market for the stock market. Same thing with the 2-year yield, trending the same way, doing the same pattern. See back here, went up, topped, trend down. Same thing. And then when he got here, crash. That's when all the stock market, everything goes zero, because correlation goes to 1 when everything crashed all at once. Panic, because people are just fly to safety. They're cashing out like crazy. Imagine like in Hex, like everybody goes staking all at once. All of a sudden the yield goes down, because that's basically what it is. Those are bond yield, right? If everybody's taking Hex, API goes to 3.69, right? Imagine this is like that, because everybody's panicking. They just don't want to risk anything anymore. But over here, when it's like that, this is what you want. So we at that climax point around here. This is where we are here over there. Getting closer to the moving average. Clearly, it's a downtrend. You see the triple top. or what you could call big head and shoulder. Same thing. We broke the neckline over here. That's when we got the little black swan event, which turned out to be a no big deal. But we're trending in the right way. We did the rebound, continuation. That's what you want. That's what we're going to keep getting. And this is what allowed stock market to keep doing this because of cheap money that continue to be cheap. So that's good. Which then back again bring us to Bitcoin so that we can chase the new highs. And as we get closer to 70K, ETH is going to start running back towards the, its old all-time high too. But at the very least, if ETH can just retake past the 2650, which is, by the way, is the 618, very, very important. Everybody knows, right? 618 is what you need to support. Once we can consistently stay here and start chasing towards 3K at the very least, right around here, then we know we're trending in the right direction. So, because we had that little weekly scare, and again, this indicator here that I like, when it's red or pink, that means short sale. They were artificially pushing the price down, manipulation, just to really, really keep it low to create panic while they're filling up their bag. But then now we are that stable zone, but we need to close weekly above 2650, 2659 to really retake the 618. Because back in the day, same thing. Because once we do, bam, we can quickly bounce off very, very fast, and that's what we want to see.
Kareem, there was only one data point I used to start putting my life savings into Bitcoin back in 2017, and that was when the price of one Bitcoin flipped the price of 1 ounce of gold.
There you go.
And I'm looking at these charts here right now that you've got, and the price of Ethereum is hovering almost exactly at the same price of 1 ounce of gold.
Right? Isn't that funny? And then
symbolism there, right?
Yeah.
So I know that, look, I mean, if there's one data point I have to look at for why I'm bullish on Pulse Chain, and it's like, I am begrudgingly giving this alpha away, like in the middle of the episode, like even though I don't want to give it away. But like, all right, what percentage of the SAC funds resulted in what number of X's for Pulse Chain that we saw back in like January to March? It was about 5% of the SAC funds caused about a 5X in the RH assets. And so, just like if you need one thing to keep you bullish is like, there's another 95% sitting there.
And it's hilarious. And I was getting there next, we're not getting to the Pulse Chain, but it's like, not only that, but people look at, but the price is down. Like, no, they don't understand. It's about ratio. And that's what we're going to talk about next, because if something is lower, but something is even lower, that means in terms of ratio, you can still deploy and buy back, because once all those people are capitulating or sold or whatever it might be, it becomes even easier to pump the price. Look at this pump right here from Ethereum. You see how fast it went from here, like 2,000 after consuming for a while, and bam, in the span of literally like a month, 4 bars, right? Roughly a month. It went up almost 80% in a month. It's crazy. So it's like, oh yeah, it's boring. This is people go, oh, I want to leave crypto. It's boring. It's this, that. That's when you get your eyes off the ball, and next thing you know, bam, it does what it has done back in the past here. Same thing, bam, or right around here. Stays like this is literally where we are. Look at that. Can't make this thing up. It stayed for about 6-7 weeks, and then in about 3 weeks, bam, it did this. So at any time, when the certain persons that be are artificially pushing the price down, that's why you see the violet vector here. It wasn't completely a red vector, but it's like they're trying to keep it low, because everybody knows, especially on the weekly chart, when you're above the 50 moving average, those are usually like buying zone accumulation, and that's what they're doing. And they even wish the price would go lower, but people are at least smart enough not to completely panic. But nonetheless, it's where they want to keep it down. Although stock market is clearly going up, clearly, like again, showing people, but they keep it lows because they're not done buying, and they're not done like accumulating people's dumping. They love government selling. They love Mt. Gox distribution. They love all this fear, because guess what? It's the time they can get billions with a big B dollars worth of Bitcoin, Ethereum for cheap, because they know the liquidity compared to the amount of money they have, it's still low. They don't want to keep pushing the price against them. Imagine they want to buy 5 billion and they know the price slippage could be like 30%. But if they wait a little bit longer, play the poker game, fear tactics, let the people dump, and then you just have the bids ready. Like I've said it many, many times, people get this confused. When it's red, people are buying. When it's green, people are selling. Because you can't have a buyer without a seller, and you can't have a seller without a buyer. It's deep.
Yeah, that was a good point.
People keep missing that. You can't buy without seller, and you can't sell without buyer. So when the price goes high, it's because it's hitting the sell orders. People are selling, people have limit orders, and the sales are being filled as the price pushes up. Because if I don't have a limit sell order, the candle can't go there. It can only go there if there's something that hits it. The same way when it goes down and it doesn't go to zero is because there's a bid here that picks it up to push it back up. So when you see crazy candle like this, somebody got it at $48,000. It might was still limited, but somebody picked it up. So it's the same thing. You see, same thing with ETH. It went to 2,200. I think. It went to, about 2,200 on the wick. 2,100. So it's like somebody picked it up. Just make sure you don't shake it out. That's why we tell people to be careful of the leverage, because that's how you get wiped out. And then when it goes continuation, you're nowhere to be seen, and you're left behind. And then literally the whole bull market / continuation is happening without you, and you don't want that to happen. Make sense?
I've been taking my ETH and putting it into PulseX, because it's like, okay, imagine now that you've already proven that 5% of the SAC funds can pump the ecosystem of 5x, right? And that's with the people who want to sell. So like in the future, if more of those guys are taken out of the system because they sold the lows, then there's not as many of them left. You're also dissipating all of the funds that were like that were sacrificed at the top of the market. So like people had to, like, people didn't suffer the same
fate
down that they would have had. But so what I'm saying is, now imagine Ethereum does a modest 10x.
Yep.
So now you have 95% of the SAC funds that can pump 950x.
Easily. And then, as everybody knows, if you remember back in the day, when we went from $80 back in the day with Hex, when we bought Ethereum at the ultimate low around the $80, for those who remember, or even $200-$300, and it was running towards $1,200 again. Like, Hex was running with it. People think that it's going to wait, it's going to hit the 10x and then pump. No, it might literally just go 3,800, or Ethereum goes by near all-time high, or a little before, and then the thing start to pump already, because people sometimes wait too long. The catch-up trade is when you start to run, you have to move quick, because you literally see 30% candle, and then by the time you're like, I made money on my Ethereum, let me go chase Pulse Chain, it's already too late because the gap has been closed. Does that make sense? So that's also the reason why I watch the Bitcoin dominant this like a hawk on the weekly chart. You get to see two things here. See the rising wedge that's been going on for literally weeks, kind of went down, everybody thought, and then fake out, burn people up. So went away, get past the 618. But now you get to see where it's like, this was an artificial pump over here, but now it's breaking down. It could be very literally by the end of the month, if it doesn't go back into this space, there's a high chance that we're going to clearly see that, okay, cool, it's breaking down from the rising wedge. And at that point, it might go all the way down here to recover that green vector candle, which is in the 52%, just a 4-5% drop in Bitcoin dominance. Everybody knows ETH is going to be most likely the one picking that up. Now you switch to this one here, ETH BTC, which is the opposite. You see how like this clearly was an artificial pump. When I saw that, sadly, I knew just like here, it's going to come back down because it has to recover, because this is high frequency trading. Like whoever did this, it's like not manipulation, but they're pushing the price up because nobody's buying, but then they have to get their money back. The same way you see how they artificially push it down here, it's red, but it has to go back up and it recovers. So now when this move start to happen, imagine Bitcoin goes back to a 70K, and then if BTC ratio start to go back the other way. So imagine Bitcoin pump 10%, 15%, and then this recovers a 5-10% move. That means Ethereum will have to pump 30-40%. And that's how we quickly go back 3,800, like you were saying, all this other stuff. And then by then, all the other stuff is going to start catching up too. So that's why it's like, it's very, very important to keep those things in mind, because the same relationship we see between Bitcoin and ETH is the same relationship we're going to start seeing between ETH and things like Pulse Chain and other layer 2s or layer 1 who work directly with ETH, like Pulse Chain.
Yeah. Hey,
Let's
something just
go.
anecdotal for you. I hear this a lot. I hear a lot from people, particularly newer people, to pulse chain, and they're just like, I just want to share this because I know the both of you have already experienced it, right? And it's hard to communicate. And it was like, oh, it's all over. It's never going to go up. Yada yada yada,
Yeah.
right? And I try to say it enough, but maybe I don't say it enough. I was around when ETH was less than $10. It was $8.
Oh
How
wow.
many
Yes.
how many did I buy?
Exactly. Good question.
Okay. And I was around when I could buy Bitcoin for $200-300. How much did I buy? Right. I
Yep.
was, I had exposure before where I could have known more about it and done more. But I didn't buy any. Right. I didn't start buying Ethereum till it was over like $200
Mm-hmm.
because what happened? Cycle came and I was retail and FOMO in. And then
Mm-hmm.
same thing with Bitcoin. I wasn't buying it when it was under 1,000, but at 2,000, it made great sense to do. Right. So this is the kind of stuff you experience. And so even I have to remind myself, yeah, I was there when it was $80 ETH.
Exactly.
I was there when it was $80. So anyways, people make a lot of these like
Mm-hmm.
weird like comparisons that you can never get here because market cap would be that, or it can never get here because of this. But this is all crypto, man. So really anything can happen. I guess I can't divine the future, but there's always hope in crypto that prices will go up. I mean,
It's
This is
right.
the frontier.
we're
This is
talking
the
about
frontier.
we're talking about some people talk about $500,000 Bitcoin. I don't think that's happened in this cycle, but maybe. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about 15,000 ETH or $20,000 ETH. If all that can happen, why can't Pulse go up? Right. I mean, people are just
Yeah.
ridiculous.
It's just funny. No, I like that because there's another thing that I want to address, which I think is good. I'm going to share my screen again, so we could focus on Pulse Chain. But because people are saying great stuff in the chat here, first, shout out to Future Us. Good to see you, brother. One thing's for sure, cost of T-share is cheap right now. That's a fact. Shout out to Brisology too in the chat. He's making great comments. But what I want to just remind people is now we're going to go back to like ratio. Again, I'm not telling anybody to trade ratio because it's very risky. Some know how to do it, some don't. I never advise it because 9 out of 10, you're going back to trading mentality and you will get burned. But
Yeah.
there's a way to understand what it is so people understand that, why would Richard or whoever or OA or whatever or new participant come in and buy? I want to show a logical explanation why any investor that happen to have Ethereum or something layer 2 that has pump and wants something that has great technology, great future, great community, and have just thinking like an investor, why would they be interested to convert their money? Because that's what people don't understand. People forget how Hex first pumped. Nobody knew who Godwell was. It wasn't Richard. The person just came and pumped it. Some new version of Godwell can show up. Some new version of somebody that made money somewhere else can come in and boom. We just want to show logical explanation about why a good investor or a big wallet want to just like, hey, I made all this money. Let me park somewhere that has product market fit. Prices are low, so I can protect my entry and make thousands of dollars. Like many of them are making on Pulse Chain, just collecting yield, even at those lower prices. It's a version of like staking yield on Hex, but the difference is you literally get it like every day live, and you can stake whenever you want.
So this isn't for everybody, and I guess I get it, that I understand if you didn't sacrifice for Pulse. You didn't sacrifice for PulseX and you just had Hex. This is a rough time, right? Because you're just waiting to watch those, watching that price go down. However, if you did sacrifice and you kept exposure and then you went into the farms, you're doing wonderful. I mean,
Exactly.
I don't know what else to say. And, I think that a lot of people are doing very well.
Yep. And another great comment from the Rich Wealth. That's a good point. Again, whether it's OA or just big whale in general, the reason why whales sometimes when they really want to pump something, they pump it fast. Even unfortunately, the pump and dumpers, that's a tactic that they use. Is the idea is to create FOMO to make other people chase. Because some people, even the people hardcore after the bear market, and they really beat up, right? 1 or 2x is not going to do it because I'm like, they still got the PTSD. Oh, what if it comes back, Maddie? What if, and then it keeps going up, and then they capitulate, and then they get back in, and that's why it pumps another further after the original pump. So sometimes people need to really be sure that bear market is over. The same way right now, it's fascinating because literally 2-3 years ago, Bitcoin is around 60K where it is now. And it's euphoria, panics, the best thing in the world. Michael sell it, this, that. That was before the bear market. And now we're at the same price level. And the fear is crazy. People don't even want to take long, short, nothing. Yeah. Volatility is low. So it just goes to show you, same price, different perspective. People completely forgot about what they were here for. And they fall for the narrative and all this. And that's why you got to have strong conviction. And that's why you have to have strong skin in the game so you don't fall trap of those things. And then when you recognize like, oh, we're at those prices, but like you don't realize that long ago that was seen as a blessing. And now we're looking at it like, oh, it's bad. Like, no, don't look at it like that. So I want to flip the script into reminding people Pulse Chain, Pulse X, whatever, because some of those prices, remember, those were early days sacrifice 2021 when Hex was at a much higher price. So people need to remember that. So if the price goes back to those price level, it's almost as if, assuming you never sold your coin or whatever, and good for you. It's like if you sacrifice somewhere around where Hex was 30 cents, I'm just giving an example, and the Pulse X and whatever goes back to those near sacrifice price, that means you got your 30 cents Hex back. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? It's like, and Hex could be literally at 4 or 5 cents. Pulse Chain is back to sack rate or above. Pulse X too in that vicinity. Ink over there too, because we've seen it when we were right around the 2-3 cents area. We were right around sack rate, this, that. But sack rate means for most people, if they go back to what the price was when they sacrificed, we were around the 20 to 30 cents range. First sacrifice price was even higher. Second sacrifice is a little bit low.
My guess is that the ratio of OA pump to community pump is much closer to 1-to-1 versus 5-to-1. And part of what I look to is like how many T-shares does the OA have and how many T-shares does the God Whale have? Well, the God Whale has more now, but it's almost even. It's almost exactly even. So, and we saw this with like early reports of like the OA kind of like, stalking other whales and kind of matching what they put in and stuff. And so, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you get a 900, if Ethereum does a 10x from here, which I don't know, maybe it'll only do a 5x, but 10 is easier number to calculate.
Yes.
Then the OA funds, maybe that pumps it 950x, and maybe the rest of the community pumps it double that. So you're looking at like, 1800x, 1900x, something like that, from whatever the low ends up being. But we saw, I guess like what we saw before in January is you had Pulse bottoming out about where it is right now. But Pulse X was 2 times lower, right? It was down about 90% from sack rate. And then Ink was down, I think like 4x or 5x lower. And so you've seen some of the ratios of what's bonded change a little bit since then. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised with like some 500x as like kind of a minimum if Ethereum is doing a 10x.
Yeah. Now let's do something fun that I love to do, right? With a quick math, and then also friendly reminder people about the power of bonding liquidity. Oh, I love the chat today, man. Everybody's on point. Great comments. And then what John Wallace said is also on point. If OA pumps too hard, too soon, whatever, that could be seen as desperation or exit liquidity and this, that. And then we still got the SEC case going. I'm not saying that it's related, but it's like if we can get all that dark cloud away from us, and the last big dark cloud for us is just the SEC stuff. When that goes away, it's almost like green light to do anything. That said, it doesn't mean that OA or whoever cannot play good defense in a sense where you, like a great investor, you buy in the value zone. What is value zone? It's always around, if you're doing a W pattern, where you first defended position, that's where you defend near the low or new lows, because then you're flushing people out, you absorb, because what I just said earlier, right? For people to buy, somebody needs to sell. For people to sell, somebody needs to buy. When those big volume sales are coming in and the price doesn't go to zero, what does that mean? Somebody is buying. There's bits literally sitting there just waiting to be picked up. So some of those things people are looking at, always buying. No, that could have been limit orders that have been placed years ago, just sitting there, waiting to be triggered. and then it gets triggered, and then people think, oh, he just went to buy today. No, it's just on-demand liquidity. There's nothing until it gets to the zone, and then all of a sudden it comes in out of nowhere, scoops up, disappear. That's just how the whale operate, because they never thought it would get that low, but in their mind, meaning we don't know who they are, whatever, but that's what big money thinks. It's like it's such at a discount that it's worth buying. The same way you see Bitcoin, Ethereum, when Ethereum wicked to $2,000, that thing didn't even last even an hour. It went right back up to $300 because people were like, holy shit, it got hit. Because the limit order gets hit so fast that it just gets sent back up because they didn't even expect the price to be low. They're running all the fear, they're running all the propaganda, they're running all the negativity. They're telling you all those bad things that's going to happen. Meanwhile, the data is showing you how much ETFs are buying. The data is showing you interest rates going down. The data is telling you Federal Reserve is about to lower interest rate because, again, we went below 3% inflation. So trust the data. I would say don't believe what they say, watch what they do. Trust the data because the data will always end up in the long term. Zoom out makes you right. Manipulation always happen in the short term. Long term, they can't manipulate what needs to happen. So, Maddie, I'm going to share my screen one more time. Let me just boom. So we can talk about this value area, which I think is a great segue. Boom, let me see this. Okay, hold on. Share. I'm sharing my screen. Can you see my screen or just one? Are you seeing the chart or are you seeing the
chart?
What about now? Do you see GoPulse.com or just the chart?
Chart.
Oh, okay. Hold on. It did a sharing only based on the tab, not the whole thing. Hold on. Sorry guys, I'm a little rusty. Share screen. Oh, entire screen. Yeah, I should just do that. Look, makes it easy. Boom. Boom. How about that? Now. You see it? GoPulse? Yep. All right, cool. So a couple of things we're talking about value. So we'll start here with Pulse, right? And I don't know about other people, but when I look at Pulse, PulseX, and a lot of the stuff, I rarely do it only Pulse. I look at Pulse versus kind of like USD, right? But all the other ones, I always looked at them as a ratio of each other or ratio of Hex to get by you. So as everybody knows how much I love DMI, right? Especially on the weekly, you get to see how like all this selling pressure, right? That was very, very accelerated has started to kind of like top out. Like this was a violent move. Now it's kind of going sideways. The same way the buying was dying and then it started to pick up. So you get to see that it started to form a little bit like a kind of roundabout. Picked up a little bit, went back down, picked up, and it goes back down because people are still exiting. So it's absorbing that. But then if it doesn't make a new low and start to trend the other way, going to October and end of 2025, I can see like a rounding like this while this guy start to go down. And then we'll get the famous cross. When we get the famous cross, kind of like how we got it hit. This is how violent that was. This is literally 1 week. It was here, and then the next week, bam, cross. And then the next week after that, bam, almost all-time high. That's how fast it could go. The same way, look at that chart. 100% move in a week, like nothing happened. So same thing, you see the MACD getting close to go. So it's like we are at the phase where I tell people, again, no crystal ball, but we're at the phase where the worst has been gone for the most part. We're closer to the end than to the beginning. That doesn't mean it's going to cross tomorrow, next week, or next month. I'm just saying, factoring all those weeks, we're closer to the end, let's say October, and we get a cross somewhere by now to October versus the beginning of the bear market when this thing started to trend down and you see the buying diminishing and then you see DMI cross over here. When you see that, you already knew it's just a matter of time until the rest continue to puke down. So when you see that, and Pulse is the leading indicator, kind of like Ethereum from the other end. So then PulseX is going to look similar. Ink's going to look similar. And their DMI is also going to look similar to some degree. I'll go back to the weekly chart. I'll show you guys again. So you see similar thing. But the MACD almost crossed here, but that was like a fake out. Then it went back down. But it's very close. At any time, it could just pop, off we go. Yes, it is a little bit waiting for Ethereum to do something. But you can tell that it's ready to go when the times were, like I was saying earlier, it's not going to wait for Ethereum to go to $4,000 and up to start pumping. I'm telling you, Ethereum retake the 3K, we can easily pump 50% because prices are so low at any time, just boom, because people just need to see the trend change. Then optimism comes back in, fear and greed comes back in, leverage comes back in, people are confident. that the direction has been decided, next thing you know, we can break this and go. So ink, same thing. You get to see a similar thing. And ink has to pump because you need the incentive of ink. See, we got a little fake out that broke down, but we need the incentive of ink so that people can buy Pulse, PulseX, and everybody else, because the big player who are playing the liquidity game, you got to incentivize them not to sell their Pulse or their PulseX and their Hex. So how do you incentivize that, right? Quick math, logic. You keep the price of ink high enough so when they provide liquidity, they get paid in ink, they cash out the ink, they don't sell their Pulse or their PulseX. So indirectly, you're paying them well enough that they don't want to press the sell button. They're happily living off their yield. It's kind of like how you get your t-shirt working for you. You get enough that price of Hex accelerate to the upside and it goes up faster. Because when you get to a point where your yield take care of your lifestyle, all of a sudden you stake more, you sell less. Next thing you know, price goes up higher, faster, because people were desperately selling to make a living or trading or forcing it. Now they get to a point where the yield is taking care of the bills. So now they value the Hex more, they sell less. Boom, it creates that self-fulfilling prophecy. And next thing you know, we get a move like this. That's why I can see something like that trending back towards the $10 and then going back towards the previous high and creating that kind of W pattern. That's what I'm seeing. Obviously, this was a fake out. Hopefully, we retake the zone. But let's just say, hypothetically, somewhere around October, if this were to happen, now you have a beautiful W pattern with a higher low. This is the most bullish W you can have. Regular W usually looks like this, but that's why ink, to me, is the most bullish chart, because he has a potential W setup with a higher low of a candle that's 157% here, and this is 80%. So when you were to look at this, assuming it retained the zone, like it's almost over 250%. So that to me is, and it's the incentive that's needed for Pulse Chain and PulseX to rise. Ink is higher, more people want to provide liquidity because they're going to earn more money. And to earn more money and provide liquidity, they're going to have to buy PulseX and Pulse typically, because those are the pair that they're going to use. Or even ink itself, which is going to help ink itself goes up in price. So same thing here. You kind of see a W pattern like that and then like that with a higher low. Obviously, it's not 200%. You know, it's a little weaker compared to ink. It's only 26%. But nonetheless, it's still bullish because it's a W in formation with a higher low. We've been in this zone for a while. And guess what? It just happens to be also, it's not a coincidence, near the what? 618. We have perfect support right here. Again, weekly chart we're talking. We're not looking at daily. We're not looking at 4-hour, 30-minute DGN stuff. None of that. We went to the literally 2618, which is known to be something bullish, retraced to the 618. And then now, off we go. 2025, if we can retake this and break out of here, it should be glorious from here. So the setup is good. I don't want to say unfortunately. Pulse is the one that looks a little bit weaker, simply because, like I just explained, ink has the craziest W pattern with a higher low, 250% up. PulseX has a good one too with a 26%. This one is regular W. You see? W, and we went back. We actually made it slightly on a closing candle. We made a lower low because the wick tells the story, right? Like the guy said, wick tells the story, the body tells the fact. We had the same story, wick here, and probably limit order got triggered. So on the story, we never made a lower low, but on the fact, we did because we closed below. But we're trying to retake that. It's still a bullish pattern because it's trying to do a W. Hopefully, this is support. And then going into October, we raise the other way. But I would say ink has the most bullish because it's W with a higher low. Then it's PulseX, and then it's Pulse. But they all seemingly will be running in tandem. Now, this is where it gets funny. You watch this. We'll go PulseX. Start with PulseX is easier. And then you compare it to Wrap Pulse. This is what I was talking about, ratio. Now, full disclosure, don't try this at home. Very dangerous. You know what I mean? That's the one thing at least that I can respect about with Somni is that he did warn people, because some people trying to do the ratio trading, you can literally lose your whole bag while the bull market continues. You do not want to do that. Okay? Very, very, very important. Now, everything I just explained about the W pattern and one being a little bit weaker than the other one is also going to reflect itself in the ratio trading pairs. Because if three things are moving in tandem and they're moving in a similar fashion, but one is stronger compared to another one, which is also strong compared to another one, then it will reflect itself in their ratio trade. Perfect example here. Pulse X versus Wrap Pulse. It started here, right? Then it dumped. When Pulse X is on the second part here, that means that, when Wrap Pulse is on the denominator right here on the right part, it means that when it goes up, Pulse X is more valuable than Pulse. And this is what happened. It broke all-time high. At first, it dumped, rightfully so, because people want to buy Pulse, because Pulse is like the Ethereum, right? You don't buy, let's say, Uniswap coin, you buy Ethereum first, because without Ethereum, you can't have Uniswap, even though it's the DEX and this and that. That's what the market believed. But then it got to a point where price was so low, DGen really picked up, and because DGen really picked up and shit coins and meme coins and whatever, the DEX became more valuable because transaction fee. The same way in the bear market, Binance, I remember that thing was $5 and it freaking ripped to $200 in a matter of a year and a half. It was crazy. It was 100x.
Yeah, you remember that? You remember that $5 token?
Mm-hmm. That's how crazy it is. Binance coin.
People don't listen. That's what I was getting at before. I was around for that too, and I faded it. Well, mostly I faded it because we were precluded from being on Binance.
Of course. Because we never, again, that's how we learned. We never thought it would go this far. And then we bought a few here and there for the exchange, because back in the day, we also loved it because it wasn't banned yet. And I needed Binance to buy EOS, because everybody know my story.
Yeah.
At a certain point, you just couldn't get it anywhere else. And BNB, when everything was shut down, it was the only place to go. Only showing time.
I still have my EOS lock somewhere. I don't know where the hell it is. But
yeah, exactly. This is why I knew when this started happening, Pulse X is going to take off. Simply because high volume trading, because people are looking for, being gamblers, because they're getting their eyes away from the ball as the price is going down. There was a recovery here. You see the recovery here started, but then what ended up happening is it went back down again, because people thought, the bear market is over, Pulse is going back up. But then it didn't. Bear market got longer, and then people just said, fuck it, I'm just going to go degen. So they went degening, which then increased the value of PulseX, because the volume start kicking in, buy and burn start going crazy. We're very close to 1 billion burn, actually. And then now we retest all-time high. Then obviously it pushed back down. And this, by the way, it's a common pattern. Cup, handle, breakout. This is literally a pattern. Oh, shit. Let me charge my laptop before it turns off on me. 1 second, yes. Cup and handle pattern. Breakout, but now we made a new high. We made the new high. Measure move says we can push a little bit higher, but when you start seeing wicks like that, again, don't try this at home. This is just for educational purposes. When you start doing massive wick like this, and then it's like it's getting very toppy, that it might start to revisit either this zone or further down, because if we start going back into bull mode, Pulse might start recover against Pulse X. And again, that might still just be temporarily do something like this, but then go again. Because if people keep on degening and the buy and burn continue to do what it's going to do, because we have something that even Binance doesn't have. We have literally live active burn. It's not quarterly. You got to wait for somebody to magically go burn the coin. No, it just literally happens as volume pick up. If we go full on bull mode and volume picks up and the degen keeps doing what they're doing, then this thing should continue to burn itself faster and faster. But that doesn't mean that in the short time, Pulse chain doesn't catch up by pumping faster, because it's also been down a while, which then is going to push this back to this zone. So those who have ratio trade, and let's say the guy here, good for you. See, the smart money is already starting to switch back, because they're like, oh my God, I multiply my Pulse versus my PulseX, because it's kind of like Forex trading. When the euro start becoming too weak compared to the dollar is too strong. What do people do? Strong dollar, they go buy euro weak, because they know when the euro is too weak, it's going to bounce back, because you can't just let the euro be too weak. Same thing with the Japanese yen. So you got to understand that ratio and watch that. Same thing when you go ink, right?
And you get more yield right now if you pair ink and pulse than if you pair ink and PulseX.
Exactly,
So,
because everybody,
yeah.
just like a hex take, everybody flooded into that because that was the good short in town. That's why the yield went down. The same way, nobody's really touching the yield with the USD because they're sniffing that bull market is on the way. That's why those yields have a 50% APY, but nobody
I love
cares.
it.
Yeah, but nobody cares because they think, okay, what's 50% if I can get 100% pump? If I get 100% pump, my opportunity cost is going to be greater. So they're willing to just wait for the other coin, which is not a bad idea because you are providing liquidity on two coins that can potentially fly. What did I just say earlier?
Mhm.
I said the best W pattern, that's just a fact, it's not an opinion, are Ink and Pulse X. Pulse has a W too, but it's not as strong as Ink and Pulse X. That's why the yield between Ink and Pulse X has the lowest one because the big money has sniffed that too.
Oh, of
That's why
course.
they're providing liquidity for those two because they know that I get lower yield. But if they both run 100%, who cares, right? I'm still good.
Yeah, I got a couple tricks in the background I won't get into, but
Yeah,
because there's a couple other pairs that I like that.
yeah.
But
Another example. Look at this
but
one here.
I'm going to do a shout out to anybody who has done the LP providing for the stables. It's a very important part of our ecosystem, right?
Yeah,
Somebody has to provide liquidity providing
exactly.
stable to token, but be aware, right? Yeah. You leave gains on the table and a parabolic move, right?
Yep.
We know
Now,
that this
I
is
want
the
to
case.
warn everybody. I want to warn everybody. This is the scariest one, which is actually my favorite one, but it's the very scariest one. You can make clearly life-changing wealth in ratio trading. The last time I see a move like this was when Hedron first launched and really started beating against Hex. And I just got lucky because, I had so many stakes and I had a lot of it and that was a lot of money back then. But the last time I seen that was only that's how strong of a contract Alex created. But we're talking about almost 600% against Pulse. That's insane. But it just goes to show how much ink got sold off on because people forgot at the
Oh yeah,
beginning that thing was almost $300. Wait, I'm not
it
crazy,
was
right?
$80, right?
Oh, sorry. Let me go back to the USD. Yeah, $80. So it's like, yeah, exactly, $80. So now one and two people, oh my God, $10 is a big deal. But remember, even at $10, it's still 80% and 80x, sorry, less than what it was before. Now somebody could
So
argue that, yeah, but the volume wasn't that high, and
okay,
maybe that
okay,
was.
okay. So I need you to answer a question for me.
Go ahead.
Okay, how do our viewers handle this situation in the future? Let me get to what I'm saying. Clearly, it was a buy to get ink at 40 cents. And
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm telling you that 99% of us didn't do it.
Of
So
course.
what advice could you give us to say when you recognize something that's the time? Because it's clear that we can't do it by ourselves sometimes.
True. And I'm gonna give I think the best answer in a sense where so nobody feel bad and guilty and this and that because I genuinely believe this and this is the logic that I'm gonna use and this is where the volume candle really gonna help out. This is the story, right? I choose to believe this story. We launch here, volume is crazy, blah 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 blah. Bear market start to hit, right? Volume start to go down. What is the next best thing people do? Long believer, rightfully so. They go into the farms. They go into the farms, and as they get to the farms, they get the ink. What do they do with the ink? They sell the ink to collect the money. So they make some money while waiting for the bull market to return. Bull market doesn't return, price goes lower. Bull market doesn't return, price go lower because people are relying on that yield to generate some type of money. And then what else do they do with that yield? They trying to buy more other coin to create more yield, but then they got to sell the yield to survive. You get what I'm saying? This is where the price start going down. Then we got a little rebound over here when we thought we were doing the launch and stuff like that back in 2023. But then again, same thing happened. Nope, false alarm, double bear market. Bear market continue. It's not over just yet for us. You know what I mean? Bitcoin is going back up, but it's not over for us. So what ended up happening is people just keep doing the same thing that they did here. They did it here. The volume is diminishing simply because this is also based on potential value related to USD. So the value of your coin is going lower and lower. The value of your farm is going lower and lower as well. And you're selling the ink lower and lower because you're trying to collect some money. And then it gets here where literally nobody could have done nothing about nothing. A big buyer, a whale or a group of whale just made the bottom. That's how real bottoms are made. Nobody can predict it. Somebody just decided to be, you know what? No mas. This thing is not going any lower than this. And this is why I want to warn anybody to forget about the USD price, because the bottom wasn't created by the USD price, because the USD price was manipulated by the price of Ethereum, because the price of Ethereum kind of affect the price of Pulse. You see how the price barely moved here around 50 cents? It stayed around here. It didn't really move. It just stayed in that range. But meanwhile, around the same time, this is December 2023. Let me go back here. Same thing on the weekly chart, December 2023, right around here. See? This was the same thing where somebody just saw, okay, ink should not be less than 50 cents or stay around 50, especially coming from $80. If you were to do the quick math on that, it's almost 99%. Think about it. It's a 99.5%. Because 1% of $80 is 0.8. Quick math, right? And now this is 50 cents. This is not a coincidence. 99.5%. It doesn't get any lower than that. Anybody big buyer be like, all right, cool. I can buy it here. This is the dip of all dip. So you just put a showstopper here, which then creates a bottom here on the ratio, because the people are still selling. Make no mistake about it. They're still selling. But somebody is backing up ink so that ink stop losing value against Pulse. And Pulse are starting to come in to defend the peg against ink. It wasn't because of that. It was more like they look at it like it should not be lesser than 50 cents. And then as they push the price up to create the incentive, the ratio started to really rise up, because incentive went up for ink while at the same time Pulse chain stay around the same price. This is why the ratio has to go back up. And then people realize, oh, wait a minute, bull flag here, break out. Now the traders gets in. Makes sense? That's why you see the big candle. Here, I'm telling you, it's big money backstopping this. Say, no, we are creating it. Because some of the traders, they wait for breakouts. They're not crazy. When you look at this over here, if you're rational and not insane, this looks like a falling knife. You stay away. Then it goes sideways, and then you're thinking PTSD. You're thinking it's gonna do something like this. You wait.
Well, and that exact moment is the fourth day of the Hex conference when Richard announced that he has mega lawyers that used to work for Elon Musk.
Exactly.
And the OA and the Godwill started buying all at the same time. So that's
part of we can add that to the story. Yep.
Part of where the bottom was made.
And then you're thinking, okay, consolidation, because you're thinking it does this. Okay, great news, blah, blah, blah. Liquidity is coming back in. Then it pukes back down. Same thing. PTSD kick in. You're thinking it's going to do this. But then it gets backstopped. It makes a higher low. That's the first signal. Then you retest. It flags, goes sideways, maintain. And then once you break out, everybody and their mom start coming in. Because guess what? Now you had the initial impulse. We break out from the descending trend line. If I were able to do a quick trend line using that top pivot, I can say something around here got broken down, went sideways. That was the first warning. Second warning was horizontal line, because people know that horizontal lines are actually stronger than the trend lines. And when that broke out, everybody and their mom came in. This is organic. You can tell. Buying, sell. You see that volume candle crazy like that. When you see a bunch of buy like this, that could be less organic. This is somebody just pushing price up. Just buy. This like that. This is volatility. Goes up, people selling, people buying, people selling, because some people think, oh, it's gonna top. And then it reached the new stage, and then now it's been consolidating, like I pointed out. I have this long time ago. Then we broke out, and then we thought we're going back to bull market as we do, and then Bitcoin gets slapped again. Bitcoin gets slapped, Ethereum gets slapped. We lose the $3,000 ratio because we were around 3,500. You guys remember? It was right around here, end of July. And this is why, government starts selling. Bitcoin loses the 65K because he went to 69, almost all-time high. We thought this is it. Then he reversed. We get the Black Swan event. Oh my God, we're going to war, World War III, blah, 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 all this bullshit. So Bitcoin drops to 50,000. Ethereum dropped below 3K, goes crazy to 2,200. Guess what? It affects inks too. It affects everything. It affects the ratio. And now we're back here. But now I can just do this. Watch. Funny. I just expanded. You know what I'm saying? I can even make it like that. Bull flag. The target is the same. And this is where it gets insane. If it does this, again, speculation only. But ink is geared to, if it breaks this and go, like vector candle, see this volume? There's a lot of volume here. There's a high chance that it's going to go back trading at this ratio. But if it were to just to do this, in case somebody's curious, like, Kareem, what is this measure move? This is basically just this. Hold on. Sorry. It's basically just, let me grab it. It's basically this. I didn't want to go fancy. I didn't want to draw in from me. I'm just saying, hey, level by level, we just pull flag. Whenever we break this out by the end of the year, I believe it's geared to do so. And it goes right around below whatever that thing is. So, and this is ink versus pulse chain. I want to be very, very clear. This is ratio trade, very dangerous, but I'm looking at it like common sense. You need ink to be high. Ink is high. People buy pulse chain. Why? Because why would you buy pulse chain primarily besides trading gas fee? But the fees are so low. You can buy literally $5 of pulse chain. It will last you literally 6 months, as long as you're not a heavy trader. But if ink is high, people buy pulse chain and something else to provide liquidity so they can earn that ink, which is the payout. The same way, right? Why do you buy Hex T-shares? Because if the Hex price is high and the value of the yield is high, it incentivizes you to do so. The same way you will create a Hex stake so you mint the free Hedron. It's the same logic. So this is what tells me if bull market kicks in and the money kicks in, and if I'm a wink benevolent person, ecosystem, whatever, and I want to build for the ecosystem and supply money for the infrastructure, I'm buying ink, because I'm buying ink to revive the ecosystem, to pushes people to do the right behavior. And the right behavior is stake and chill, provide liquidity. People can like it, hate it, but it's staking. It's the same shit. The only difference is our staking the hardware with Hex gives you more yield, but then again, that's also why it's hard luck. The other one gives you less yield, but you can get it out whenever you want. So it's just a good trade-off.
I'll tell you, I'm very firmly in the. Of course, I'm like Hex minded, and I'm thinking about staking Hex, and I'm 100% convinced that the most straightforward, least wreckable path is to stake Hex. Exactly. And even if that means short term, now I'll get a lot of argument from people about price performance. I get it. I understand. But what I'm getting at is in terms of units and rewards, the easiest, best stake and chill methodology is simply doing a Hex stake. And you say, well, wait a minute, Crispy, that you're full of crap, because I can make 1,000% here and make 1,000% here. Yes. However, if you're going to make those types of gains, that means you have to take action. That means you have to manage it. It means you have to risk. And you'll say, the people who are going to pretend there's no risk, okay, sure, there's no risk for you because you're so smart.
Yeah, but when you hit no risk, run.
There is risk.
Everything is life is a risk. Even dollar is a risk. Everything's a risk.
And so when I look at what I've come to learn by playing and experimenting and doing all the stuff that I've done, is I can guarantee myself an 8% reward on Hex.
Exactly.
I can go into the farms, and I do participate in some different ones, so I can. I feel very comfortable with PulseX paying.
Yes.
Without fail. I feel very good about 9-inch. I feel very good about 2 pucks or 2 p-hucks and p-hucks. Those are all tools that we have available to us. But even then, while those numbers are high at the moment for some things, they're not guaranteed, right?
Absolutely.
Just like we were talking about before, and also I have to risk impermanent loss, and there is some additional risk that's there. Am I taking advantage of it? Yes, I am. Yes, I'm taking advantage of it.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you said that, because again, one more time, everything has risk. People just need to calculate, and I'm glad I was able to come on here today to break this down, because reminding people, obviously, the one that has the most calculated risk with the lesser downside is Hex. Like we have talked about ad nauseam, but it's good to refresh and remind people of that. You know what I mean? Especially if you're planning in a long-term game, because Somebody can walk in and say, "Oh, but Kareem, this pool over there, I can provide liquidity. I get 1,000%," like you're saying, whatever, whatever. But I'm like, until when? Until so many people get in there, and all of a sudden, overnight, you can go from 1,000% yield, and then all of a sudden, it's doing 20 or 10 or
Well,
3.
yeah, a lot of it's out of your control. When we talk about
Exactly.
LP, and when you talk about LP, well, almost all of it's out of your control. When you talk about LP, yeah, we see pairs because I watch them on daily, and you'll see pairs flare up 200, 300% APY in a day.
But it's temporary.
But
That's what
that's a yearly annualized rate. It
yes.
doesn't mean that you made 200 or 300% a day. I mean, there's some odd things that happen with.
Yeah, no, it's all yearly, all yearly. But even that lowers over time.
But a lot of all these LP things, when people diversify out of the main tokens and they go into these other tokens, unless you're a liquidity provider in order to make a market, you're probably not making anything off of it. I mean, it is so small. It's like 1%, 0.5%, 1.5%. So you're taking a lot of risk for the market to go against you. If you really like those tokens, that is, right? You're taking a lot of risk for very little gain. And so, anyways, that brings us all the way back to the hex now.
Absolutely. But the cool thing that I like also is that as long as, like we've been saying, let's say, small devil advocate, let's say the viewer has understood that he watched us for a while, boom, boom, boom. He did what he was supposed to do. He secured the most important thing. He got his hex bag, right? Long-term T-share, blah, 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 done. Now he wants to diversify, like you said, or he wants to have the other coins in the ecosystem, which I think are great. And he also realized, we're in a bear market, things happen, blah, blah, blah. But now, what can I do now, right? We can't change the past. When the bear market's going to be in for a while. This is the reason why I really spend a lot of time on this chart trying to give alpha, because a lot of time people hear me a lot about talking about hex, but they never really hear me a lot talk about ink, pulse, hex, and pulse. That's why I'm going to spend time talking about that today. And why I really love this chart and this pair is because of very, very key important facts that I'm going to reiterate now, which is very important. And again, after you already got your hex bag, everything's cool, because now we're talking about potential higher risk and permanent loss, like things that you may not understand that can come in and be like, oh, bull market comes in, but then you got the wrong coin, so to speak, or too much on one coin, not the other one, and then you didn't diversify your risk, and then you get left behind. So the reason why this is loved is because assuming all the hex thing is done and you got your pulse, is like I just explained. Number one, ink has to fly first, period. Because literally, like its name, incentive. You need incentive for people to provide liquidity so that the big wallet or whoever, they come in because they got to see the incentive. It's the same thing like back in the day, Bitcoin miner, Litecoin miner, any shitcoin you don't like. If there's an incentive, people can come and mine, so to speak, and they can mine the old way with the way, proof of work or the new way with staking. But that incentive needs to be there for people to come in to bridge in their money. That's number one. Number two, once you understand that, you're looking at it like, okay, what are the other coins who are involved that will be good to pair that liquidity with, especially when you're coming out of a bear market? And this is the reason why all the PulseX to stablecoin yield are the highest, meaning less people are there, because they realize that, okay, we're no longer in the beginning of the bear market phase. With the end of the bear market phase, bull is coming in. So I don't want to do any coin to USD. I'm going to do coin to coin because in the balance of probability, those coins are already oversold. They should rise up. This is the reason why you're seeing, PulseX, Inc., Pulse. Those are the one that has the better pair because people stay away from the USD, rightfully so, because they want to catch some of that upside to have a lesser of a permanent loss. And then it brings me to this chart, my favorite chart, because like I explained earlier, out of the three coin, Ink has the most advanced W pattern with a higher low. Then it's PulseX and then it's Pulse, which then means if I want to maximize my reward, I'm going to say this twice, people, please pay attention. I don't want this to go over your head. If I want to maximize my reward in the bear market going into the bull market, this is the biggest alpha of the show. What I want to do ideally is to provide liquidity. Again, we're talking about Hex, that's already taken care of. Provide liquidity into the highest, most bullish coin pattern-wise, which is Ink, and combine it with the lowest one, because then it provides a balance that if impermanent loss should arise, at the very least, if I'm not getting the Ink, I'm compensating with the Pulse. which is obviously the ecosystem coin. So that way, I'm not losing. I'm balancing the risk. This is like Ray Dalio stuff. I'm maximizing the reward while lowering the risk. I am earning ink, which should be the flyest coin because of what I just explained on the ink, while at the same time combining with Pulse, which worst case scenario, if people start to diversify from a coin that pumps so much, chances are they're going to go back to the other main coin that's oversold, which could be Pulse. And Pulse is oversold because it has the weakest W pattern. Let me show you guys again.
Yeah, and don't be put off by the fact that if you're doing this in the farms, don't be put off by the fact that the farm percentage goes down a little bit, because what you preserve by having it set up that way with a pulse ink or something of that nature is much stronger than whether or not the thing changes a few percentage.
Exactly. And again, remember, don't be afraid of red candle. What did I say earlier? Red, you buy. Green, they sell. You can't buy without people selling, and you can't sell without people buying. The reason why this thing bounces because, and David Feeder had a great post on Twitter about that too, because it's low, it's the weakest of the W, but that also means buying opportunity because it's literally around the same price that it was literally over a year ago. You might not get those low anymore. So now, again, and those, I want to be very clear, that doesn't mean that he's going to bounce. He might continue to do lower low, but then that's when your DCA really kicked in. So long story short, back to what I was explaining here, if you provide liquidity with the highest flying coin pattern-wise, while simultaneously combining it with the lowest of the three, but lowest meaning if it goes down in the permanent lot, I'm just getting more pulse. I'm indirectly buying the dip. So this is the reason why this has the best potential when you get the upside with no downside. And guess what? When you provide liquidity on those two, what is your reward? You're getting more ink, which makes ink bullish because if you provide liquidity and you do that scale and you get more ink, and let's say a lot of people do that and they keep their ink and they don't sell their ink, what do you think happens to ink? Ink flies because ink, basic supply demand, has the lowest amount of volume, lowest amount of coin in circulation, which also means if nobody sells, low amounts of circulation, blah, 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 price goes up. Buying comes in, people don't sell, people love having the higher yield, people just want to accumulate for a while. You have all the components to make this thing run. Now, the question becomes, how soon does this can happen? It could bounce and start running the other way. It could puke a little bit down, but at the end of the day, I want you to zoom out and realize that I can almost get rid of this because that
Don't
could
they
just
exit? Isn't the idea that it exits 75?
If it breaks 60,000 ratio wise, oh, get ready. It's going back somewhere around 100K and up. And 100K is right around what it was over there back in the day, which is usually where it should have bounced. So just to do a quick major move, again, full disclosure and disclaimer, don't try this at home if you're not doing long-term. This is just an analysis that I'm witnessing, but only for those who are willing to take the risk. That's a 63%.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive because people think, just like in the beginning, right? It's going to be a sell-only coin. But listen, if you're trying to control the market and manage the market as a market maker and or like a whale in this, you're accumulating. And the only way you can accumulate more units, well, not the only way. One of the best ways to accumulate more units is actually to farm the ink that you get.
Yeah, because you're in the bear market and you're waiting for prices to go up. What are you going to do? Sell the coins at the road? No. And then ideally, you want to buy more coin. But if you don't have the money or if you tapped out and you got a bunch of coin, instead of having them sitting there, what do I always say? I hate dormant capital. The same way, to me, it's the same thing as having Hex liquid, and we're still in the bear market. You're waiting for the price to rebound, and you're just sitting liquid, literally getting diluted because the other people who are stake are earning and you're not earning. To me, that's not smart. I don't care if you do rotational stake, which I always say, which are, if you like 30 days, 45 days, whatever, like earn something. Don't just lose the days. It's the same thing as providing liquidity. You have no excuse because there's not like, oh, you have to wait for this day, 8 p.m. and an end stake. It's like, no, you can literally just provide liquidity. And whenever you feel like you don't want to do it anymore, you can just pull it out. So it's like, it just makes sense. But I wanted to explain the logic behind this chart, why it is bullish, the correlation between the three. Again, fair warning, very, very ratio trading is very hard, very dangerous. A lot of people get wrecked. You see here clearly how I only focus about the main coin. Because worst case scenario, if you make a mistake, everybody here believes that all those main coins are going to do extremely well in the long term. So if you end up with a little bit more of one versus the other one out of the top three, you're still going to do great. When you start ratio trading with the shit coins and this, that, and non-Richard Hart coin, that whatever, you're taking an even bigger risk. And at that point, the reward might not even be worth the risk. The liquidity is not even there because all those three coins, they have high liquidity in the millions. That's also very important to point out. And I'm making a potential calculated bet by showing you the analysis, showing you the patterns, the W, which is all of them are bullish. It's just some of them are a little bit more bullish than others. And this is what you want to look at when you talk about ratio trading. The same way when we're talking about the ETH BTC ratio, which was important. We clearly see Bitcoin rising. We're clearly seeing ETH rising, but we want to pay attention to the ETH BTC because it's at a low. Let me go back to the weekly. Yep. It's at the low almost never seen since like 2 years ago. I mean, look at that. It went down here 2 weeks ago or 10 days ago. Like we're talking about stuff from 2017 ratio wise. You know what I mean? Let me do monthly, probably even more clean. Like, look at that. Vector candles everywhere. So it's like it could be one of those right here moments. Remember, it pumped, it did this all the way down here, retest the previous from years before, right? It's a monthly chart. And then once it bounced, it never looked back. See, green, major buying, vector candle, crazy. People just coming in like mofos. Same thing here. It did it again. Went back, retest the previous high. Off it goes. And then here, it's trying to come here, or at least here, but we can even just take this wick saying that this wick almost perfectly is the top of this wick over here and this back here. And then once it reverse, and we're talking about ratio, imagine this. Let's just say it goes back to where it was before, 80% over Bitcoin. And imagine Bitcoin goes to 100K, which is an 80% move from 60,000 roughly. And it goes to 100K, 80% move. And then you get another 80% ratio change from Ethereum. That means Ethereum literally can go up 160 to 200%.
Yep.
And we're doing the same thing here by letting you know, where'd he go? That, again, long-term, weekly charts we're looking at. This is not going to happen overnight. They all look bullish. They all got their MACD looking cute. They all got their W. But then one more time, because repetition, mother of all skill, some W are greater than others. This is standard W. Boom, retest the low, ready to go. This one, slightly higher. This is why you clearly have seen earlier pulse ratio, pulse X dominant. Why? Because pulse in this W is somewhere here. Actually, no, not even. It's somewhere here. Same timeline. Let's say this was a day you would have come here. This is pulse. This is pulse X. And watch ink. Even better. And I know it looks crazy. People look, oh, cream, it looks similar. No. This is 157% candle. It's no joke. This is an 80% candle. So if you were to just do bottom to where we are, 278%. Assuming this is the W pattern with a higher low of a differential of 278, almost 3x. That's no joke. Here, because we know the pulse one is basically 1-to-1 because it's just flat W. In here, we're looking about a differential of roughly, my bad. Let me do it from the low to be fair. Right here, close candle. Yeah, 89%. You see, the data is already telling you all you need to know. That's the technical. Then we talk about the fundamental. When I was talking about the value and what basically incentive token is known for, what it should do, why it even exists. Then we add the fact, another fundamental, that it has a low amount of coin in circulation. The liquidity is low on purpose because, again, most big wallet that farm, They don't care about farming and dumping every day. They're probably going to farm for months, year, and then after that, maybe they're going to cash out. So it's like they're not even worried about that. And they're probably already making decent amount, even at these prices. But they will be willing to pump the price higher. Just like the Bitcoin miner. They mine like crazy. And what do? They wait for a major pump and then they distribute because they're smart. Why would you distribute here? When you see a major pump switch, you wait until there's like break of trend somewhere around here or here. And then you know, oh my God, this is it. You see the volume candle? That's when people puke. But over here, you're like, no, this is good. We're moving up. We almost made a breakout. And then Bitcoin started shit the bed. Ethereum started shit the bed. And then we went back. But that tells me the moment we're back to 35, 3,800, like we were before, expect prices to go quickly back here. This is weekly chart. This is about 2 months. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So yeah, 2 months in a few days.
Wow.
In 2 months, this thing went up. Let's look at it. Yeah, 434%. Inc. did even something more insane. Somewhere around, let's look it up. 15x, 1,500. Wow, insane. And look at that. Major pump, right? Another bullish catalyst. Look at the MACD. It did like everybody else. Then it crossed, but it barely crossed because the buying is still here. It's still hanging out. It's like at any time it could just cross, go back. He's doing this dancing here. He barely went anywhere. Everything else, look, Pulse X. A little less than up, but you can see it. It went down below. Mm-hmm. Look at Pulse. Same thing. There was more selling. So those are the signal. It went even lower. That tells you. So hopefully that was the big alpha I wanted to bring today and bringing something fresh, not just talking about Hex, because I know there's a lot of new people that probably were not OG and they probably hold more Pulse X inks than Hex and probably watch my videos about Hex so many times. So I wanted to bring something new and fresh. So thank you for listening.
Well, that's okay. That's okay for you. That's not okay for me. I'm going to keep talking about Hex.
No, we're going to keep talking about it. I'm just saying.
No, I appreciate it. Hey, listen, we all got to go after the stuff because, it gets faded pretty hard. I mean, even here talking about it, I get this a lot. People talk about how it would have been better to sell the top of every cycle, blah blah blah. And I get that. I get why they feel that way. I mean, I get it, right? But that's not the game I'm playing. I'm playing the longer delayed gratification with the idea that if I get, I got Hex at much less than 0.004. Mm-hmm. And when I look at the combined Hex at 0.005, I got it much less than 0.005. And I've been earning on stakes, just call it an average of 30% or 40% for the last 5 years. My yield outperforms in some cases, not in every stake, of course. And so my idea is that, cycle over cycle, I expect the higher prices, right? And that's our kind of game. But it's hard to argue. Anyways, it's, with the guys who are saying, "Hey, I sold the top."
Well, I'm glad that Kareem brought his bullish energy to Inc. because like he said, some of us have already heard everything, all of his bullish energy on Hex, which I am glad to see is still intact as well.
Oh, yeah.
So that's been really good. And I actually have to get up at 5 a.m. and catch a flight. So that's why I've been like a little bit off camera, but I've been listening the whole time.
Amen. So let's look in the chat. Is anybody has any question or last question before we go? Because we want to be respectful of Maddie's time. But listen, this is gonna be glorious. Just don't overtrade. What I like, at least to some degree, with the farming. Oh yeah, just one last thing. What I do like with the farming, at the very least, that I feel comfortable, mentioning to the community, is that especially if you do those ratio and not the USD, assuming we move to the bull market phase, is it feels like a mini Hex in a way, because your farming is like you're staking, But then for those who already have a lot of stakes, who are worried about, emergency end stake and whatever, we know some of the downsides. We got to point that out too. At least with the farming, if something happens, they can take some of that out. And I really, really wish that, again, some of those coins, especially the one that I really spent a lot of time talking about today, if people can put something decent in there and they get to experience a 5-10% move, man, they're gonna be great and they're gonna be in a better situation. So that's why I'm looking forward to that. Obviously everybody knows I'm mainly into Hex, but my cool thing is everybody knows I just need to make it to the end of my stake. If Pulse X, everything else do 10, 50, 100x, which I hope it to do, and my Hex just go back to all-time high, that's it. I'm retired. Like, we good. Like, I don't need to worry about anything else. So that's why I'm like, what else can I bring value so people can do in this bear market until the bull fully comes back? So then, because I don't want them to be stuck somewhere, and then if they have an emergency and then they get in a situation like me, it would suck. So at least that's why I wanted to talk about something a little bit different today. But make no mistake about it. Get your Hex, get your bag, get that set up, and I'll do my very best to get my T-shirts back. I did the math. I lost like 550 T-shirts, man. I need to get those back.
Yeah. Well, good. And I need to throw out just to mention briefly that the Freedom to Sign sacrificers were airdropped something on Ethereum, oddly enough, and I've put great detail about that on Twitter. So for people who are like, I guess, trading Maddie token or whatever, the main idea there is that because what was airdropped was put into Time Pays Me vaults, there's a 7-day waiting period, even once people realize that they have it and start requesting it. So we've got like another 5.5 days left before any of that, even the earliest person could have been moving stuff. But yeah, I'll update more in the future on that. On Thursday, I'm going to be traveling, but I'll still do a super brief version of Hex Therapy Live. But all the information that you need to know about the sacrifice and the airdrop and everything, free claim, whatever you want to call it, it's all on Twitter.
And Maddie, if I may, one last thing before we go, I want to answer a few questions here that I saw in the chat, which I think is great. From Yellowtail, because he said, what's my prediction for 2024, for the ink thing? Last little caveat that I will give. I think ink, again, that's just my humble opinion, right? Doesn't mean it's going to be a fact. But I genuinely believe ink can trend back towards the $10. And here's why. I'm going to quickly share my screen one last time. I want to show something which I think it should be really good. So boom, share, boom, back to go post. Because what I'm seeing here, which I think could be very, very good, no guarantee, but another thing about bullish pattern, W pattern, which is very, very important. And I'm mainly known famously for calling the W pattern on the DXY. I'm going to show you guys here how deadly and good. No, that's DYDX. Sorry, DXY. Where's DXY? Yeah, right. Dollar index. That's back in the day with whales. That's the famous one. We went crazy, bull run.
Yeah.
That one right here. That's just so people know. And back in the day, I literally called it live. I said, guys, it's a W, but it's slightly high. You see how the arrow is a little bit up? Hold on. That's monthly. Let me go weekly. And then I really want to show these people, for the new people that cream, what's a W pattern? How do I know if this is bullish? I need you to understand that this is what Pulse X, all of them could do. Because this is what W pattern end up at. It literally goes and then see you later. Bye-bye. That's why they're literally one of the most bullish thing you can see. Let me go to the daily chart. Hold on 1 second. No, actually it's too flat. No, weekly is better. Let's keep it on weekly. So it's like when you see this, I'm gonna zoom it out, and you see this right here. You see how like compared to the wick, because that's how weekly. If I put daily, what I show you, but let's say I just bring back to the wick. You see how like it wicked here, but it didn't go back to where it was. It did that slightly higher low. That's how you know it's very bullish. It's not just a regular W. And then once you recover the moving average, off it goes. So that is why I'm so familiar, like PTSD to that pattern. It is literally my favorite pattern in terms of bullishness. I used to love cup and handle more, but some people hate it because they don't have the patience because it takes a while. But if you're a long-term believer in weekly chart, especially because the higher the time frame, the more bullish they are. Because once he leaves the building, because he gave you 2 chances, it's like you missed the boat, the low, then he gave you another chance, and you missed that. Like, see you later, bye-bye. And this is where all of them. And Inc. has the highest higher low differential, like we talked about. So please remember that. Now, does that mean it's going to go up here? No, maybe it goes sideways. Maybe it goes up here, maybe longer. But the point of the matter is, as long as it stays like this and not going further down and maintain the W shape, once it really start taking over this zone and 3 and above, oh my God, see you later, bye-bye. So we definitely touched $10 and we went there very fast in a matter of 2 months. And this is when Ethereum was around $3,500. We start having that recovery. So my prediction is, assuming Bitcoin goes back towards all-time high, assuming Ethereum rightfully so goes back towards the $3,800 range, everybody's going to start talking about the same thing. Oh my God, sacrifice wallet worth blah, blah, blah. Chances are, if the whales are smart, they're not going to wait to start pumping this. As soon as we crack 3,000 and we're going back up, they're not going to wait because they know the average guy is going to wait until 3,500 before they start buying. So they're going to start pushing the price up. So by the time you coming to buy, they already pushed it 50%. So in other words, in terms of ratio, you lost your game because you were supposed to scoop it before the ratio change. In other words, instead of focusing on the USD, I'm telling you, do this. Look at the ratio. Don't let that thing break. I am telling you, because when that thing breaks and go, bye-bye. The quickly it went down, remember, the quickly it can go up too. Because they don't have a lot of liquidity. There's not a lot of circulation coin. It's hard when it has been dumped like crazy and it's so low and it looks like it's nothing, but those are hundreds of percent move. Look at this, 150. By the time you get here, 300%. By the time you get here, that's 500%. So it looks small, but those are major move. Now, let me watch this. That same 500% I just measured, let's say I measure from here. Look at what 500% would look like. 500% will put you literally off the screen. That's how log can be insane. So as quickly as it went down, quickly it can go back up. And it's only a 200% move. But you're going to look at the chart like, oh my God, we're going crazy. And then FOMO is going to kick in like hard. But I want you to realize that this move that I just draw, 205%, is actually less than this move over here. This is how fucked up it is. Look, this is 200%. Look how small that is. By the time it got here, we're already 500%. So $10 in USD, but watch this over here because once this start to go, it's going to be bam, bam, see you later, bye-bye. So for Inc., I can easily see it goes to $10. Again, assuming Bitcoin don't shit the bed, assuming Ethereum don't shit the bed, and then we're above $3,300 Ethereum to $3,500, prepare for that. But don't wait until the last minute. The moment you see the recovery, the short seller, the moment I think, look at it like when Ethereum crossed $2,900 to $3,000, that big three, you better be in position if you're not already, because that will be your last warning, because it's going to quickly goes to 3,500 and then go. Because just like when you look at the Fibonacci's, which is very important, that's why I have them drawn, is like once you quickly retake the 618, for people who don't know, when something tank hard, especially in terms of Fib, I want to go like this, it's very hard for it to go. But the moment you retake the 618, which is one of the important things, it can quickly go to 786 because it usually trades Fib to Fib. Like you see here, boom, Fib to Fib. It went down here. Then by the time it crossed here, it quickly went up. When it broke down, quickly went down. When it broke up, quickly went up. You see, it's Fib to Fib. 786 is literally $3,400 ETH. So let's say you're waiting, oh, Cream, what if it dumps? What if it dumps? Okay, cool. 2,600 gets taken. 2,650, which is where the 618 is, gets taken. The moment you start seeing 28, 29, 3,000, big three, look at where this line is. We are equidistant from this Fib to this Fib. The moment it goes slightly more, it's just probability. It has a higher probability to go to this Fib than to go to that Fib. Look at Fib like magnets. Since we're clearly here, that's why you hang around here, because it's waiting for the confirmation. But the moment it gets that confirmation, same thing as Bitcoin over here, Fib to Fib, but Bitcoin is playing in a higher Fib. Bitcoin did this dance here. See, Bitcoin and ETH are same, but there's a delay. ETH is over here playing this dance over here, fib to fib, between 618, 786, doing the dance. But once it quickly recovered, boom, it took off. Bitcoin is doing this dance over here from the 1 to the 786. But same thing. Look at this. Same thing. It's almost at equidistance from here to here, but now it's slightly starting to puke up this new week. This was the big test. It touched the fib, believe it or not, quickly went back up. Last week was the scary week because everybody could have easily think, vector candle, it's going back down, it's going to go back and retest. But the fact that it closed higher, that's very bullish after doing this long story. I told you the week is a story, the closing is the fact. That was a long story, so long it needed to be retested. But guess what? That story stopped here. That's a bullish thing. It get outside the Ghostling channel. And this week, although we're only Wednesday, moving into Wednesday in a couple hours, look at what it's doing already. It's closing bullishly. If it stays like this or higher by Thursday, and Friday we got very bullish catalysts. We got Federal Jerome Powell talking soon, most likely bullish. Rate cuts coming. Interest rate is going down, like we've been talking about. Where is it? My yield? Yep, right here, 3.8. So all those things you got to factor in. I need you to be in position now, because if you don't, next thing you know, you do candle like this. See, 5,000. $7,000 move. If it does this, watch this. Then Ethereum all of a sudden start going to 3K. And by the time you blink, too late. Your Pulse is up 40%, and you see those magical 40% candle. And you're like, fuck, I wish I bought it, but I didn't. Da, da, da. See, Ethereum is trying to do what Bitcoin does, but with a lag. Same thing. But just keep an eye on this. Once you clearly close on a weekly keyword above 618, which is $26.50, and retake this moving average here around 12,700 and start closing above, you better be in position, because now we're going to quickly start heading back up. And remember, when we were here at 3,500 just a month ago, that's when we were on our way to recovery, almost, towards sacrifice phase. We were above 007 on Pulse. PulseSec was at 005. Inc was like $4 or $5. Even at $5, it's 2-3x from where we are now. Imagine you're able to put, get your hand on a couple $1,000s or whatever. You can triple your money. So while you're earning yield, your 25% yield, Maddie, what is it now? 25%, the Inc to PulseX or any of those, they're about 30%, right? Quick math. If something 3x and it's 25%, now you're making 75%, because the dollar amount weekly yield, if you do weekly or monthly or whatever it might be, is now triple. And you still don't need to sell. You can just collect your yield and treat it like a t-shirt and just, leave off the yield and blah, blah, blah. So be in position, be ready, because this is happening at any time. The moment the sell pressure is gone, the moment the short seller get liquidated at 63,000, there's massive liquidation at 63,000, which is about like $4 billion more. It's rightfully so, because it will take over the moving average. It will be right above that medium zone, like I said, between the above the two fibs, but in a higher zone. ETH will be ready to pump, and you can easily have a double-digit candle. So please, please, please be ready for that. So hopefully that explains the question. So.
Well, what a great episode. I wish we could run it longer, but I got to catch my flight in the morning.
Gotta go.
Where can people find you guys?
Hexfire.io. That's it.
Yeah, Your Magic on Twitter. Most people, that's easy where they find me. Crypto Quattro Cinco on IG. I haven't been posting a lot lately because obviously I'm still here dealing with the situation, but I can easily be reach out on Twitter. On IG, that's fine too. You can DM me, or I still use Telegram, Hex Dream account, but be very careful on Telegram. A lot of scammers out there, so make sure you're talking to me from the main Hex chat. Very important, because there's a lot of copycats. I'm sure everybody in here have their fakes, so make sure I'm in all the Hex chat. So the more you see and you verify that it's a real Hex Dream account, then you know you're talking to me. But Twitter will be the best bet, or Telegram, Cream Crypto Quattro.
Awesome. And you can find all my stuff at mati.pls.fyi. And until next time, stick wisely, my friends, and peace out. Thanks
Peace
again
out.
to Cream for coming on.
Thanks everybody.
Woohoo.
I like this picture.